All right, guys, we are live. It is 8:22 p.m. on a Saturday night. We are recapping UFC 286. I love this time that we're recapping. This is being brought to you by Sherdog.com. I am your host. My name is Keith Shillan. Joining me, as always, is the great Ben Duffy. Ben, how you doing, man? Ben, I can't hear you.
I'm doing well. We had the potential to have some controversy and stuff to argue about here, but it ended up being largely irrelevant. So I'm glad of that. You know, you always hate to see a great high level main event hamstrung by arguing about things other than the fighting itself.
Yeah, I'm glad that you went mute for a second because that's actually how the fifth round of Usman Edwards happened to me. For some reason, I lost audio for about a minute into the fifth round. I don't know what happened, but luckily I got it back. Before we start, for those who know I'm a humongous NCAA wrestling fan, as is Ben. We taped a preview. I watched, God knows, I watched more NCAA wrestling this weekend than DC did. But I am not live watching the finals. I'm going to watch it immediately after this. Don't be a dick and post any of the results in the chat, please. I probably just killed myself by doing that, but I'm trying to go stay away from it, and I'm going to watch it right after this show. So let's get into it, and shout out to all the people in the chat. They're absolutely fantastic. Jump in the chat and talk with us. Ben, let's get into it. Main event, trilogy fight. Let me ask you this. I thought it was a good fight. When you think of the all-time trilogies in MMA, where does Edwards and Usman rank? I don't mean you have to give me the exact,
it's not
behind this, but
it's not on the Mount Rushmore. I would probably, if I sat down and started really thinking about it, it might come out around maybe fourth or fifth, probably. Like, it's super high level, which is great. But the first fight was really, really distanced from the other two, so it doesn't really reflect how they were as fighters in their prime. And the two championship fights were both just good. Like, the first fight was just another ho-hum Kamaru Usman title defense until he got shocked, and this one was it was just okay. It was competitive. It was good.
Yeah, I think what I'll remember about this is that there was moments like the unbelievable knockout from Leon Edwards, a back and forth fight tonight, close. I don't know if we've ever had a fantastic wow, that was the trilogy of all time, where not counting when we had to do a fourth fight with Moreno and Figueiredo, but where. I mean, is it one of? I mean, DC and Stipe, maybe that was pretty good, but the first fight was quick knockout.
Yeah, and like the one that usually got held up as the gold standard for a long time was Chuck and Randy, but none of their three fights were close.
No.
Yeah.
Randy smashed him the first time, and Chuck Liddell knocked out Randy the last two times, but he cheated, of course.
Oh, of course.
I'm just saying that because Randy Couture's my all-time favorite fighter. Well, before Bo Nichols went to MMA. So there you go. I got it out early.
Yeah.
All right, let's get right into it. This is the score. I saw a couple scores all over there. A lot of really close rounds. Ben, how did you have it? And we'll see if we scored it the same way. How did you score this fight?
I scored the fight 48-46 for Leon Edwards. I gave him all 4 rounds except for the third.
Okay, so you went third round. Wait a minute. Okay.
Third round, 10-8 Usman, 1, 2, 4, and 5. Yeah. 48-46. Having said that, the last 2 rounds were both really, really close. I have no problem with somebody giving either of those to Usman.
Yeah, I thought it was all really close. I actually had the fight even closer than you did. I scored it 47-47 draw.
And I have no problem with that. Which other round did you give to Usman?
Well, I didn't give the third round to Usman.
Oh, so you made it a 9-9.
Yeah, I went 9-9 in that round. So the only round where I was like, okay, this is, I thought a clear round was the first round. I thought it was a clear round for Leon Edwards.
Mm-hmm.
Rounds 2 through 4, I thought were all very close. I gave Edwards round 4.
Okay.
For sure. That was when I'm like, okay, I'm confident that this is his round 4. Though I've seen a lot of people who thought Usman won that round. I went second round Usman, and I went fifth round Usman. Even though, but I didn't feel good about giving either round to Usman. That makes sense.
Yeah, that
so
makes
the rounds I gave Edwards, I felt better when I was like scoring it for him. And then the third round, I went 9-9. I thought Edwards won the round, but Usman obviously got the point.
Yeah, well, and the funny thing is that you and I both feel that the fight was super close, and we aren't even agreeing on which the closest rounds were. I'm like 4 and 5 were both really close. You're like, I gave 2 to Usman. Yeah, it's just one of those fights that I think it comes down to also, what you value in, in scoring a fight. Yeah, I again, this will take a rewatch, but I have definitely no problem with 47-47. And I'd have to watch again to see if like you could justify, giving it to Usman. But yeah, I'll just have to rewatch it.
Yeah, when it was going to the scorecards, I was saying that this for Usman, best case scenario is probably a draw. Like that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, like best case for I would say is a draw. I'm kind of curious as to what it looks like on MMA decisions. I did not send my scores into MMA decisions. MMA decisions is down. Of course it is. Because
is it really?
Not permanently, just the way they usually are after a big main event.
Yeah. I'm okay with Leon Edwards. I feel like if it was one championship scoring or something like that, then I definitely would have scored it for Edwards. Some things I thought Edwards did really good. One was how relaxed he was. He was super relaxed out there, flowing really well. I love the lateral movement. I mean, we always talk about striking defense, and I kind of give my order when it comes to striking defense. Well, when it comes to like grappling defense, top of the list is just not being there. Moving. Don't give him a target. He's got to shoot. Well, yeah. Have you ever shot a gun? Like, you ever gone to to a range and shot a gun?
Oh, of course. And first time I did it as like a Boy Scout camp, or I flinched. It's like
yeah.
The second time I didn't. Like, yeah.
You shoot a target that doesn't move. It's a lot easier than the one that's moving.
Oh, sorry. That's where you're going with that. No, like, yeah. Hard to hit a moving target. I loved that he found a way to use kicks constantly without exposing himself to the takedown. Just super fast body kicks and a few leg kicks that, I mean, it was almost like a second jab for him. Just flicking out that little liver kick, it was like a second jab that it stopped Usman's forward progress. It made him uncomfortable, but it was never hung out there long enough that he could catch it. Like Usman never even tried to catch a kick and take him down.
Yeah,
like that foot was in and out.
Yeah, it was really impressive. You mentioned you said teep kicks, a lot of body kicks. He had a couple dick kicks. I mean, he had them all. He had them all.
Yeah, like the third leg kick was quite a quite a powerful tool for Edwards.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought it was really impressive too. What was really impressive is that kicks was such a big part of this story, and it wasn't like I'm sure I know he did, but I don't even remember him throwing a high kick. Like.
He threw one or two, and you got the feeling he was measuring him for it the whole time, but
the whole time, and it wasn't coming. Yeah, especially when he was stepping back. I also, this fight just seemed like such a technically sound, and it seemed like a strategy, like when you have two good NFL coaches going against each other, and that's how I felt this whole time. Like whoever could execute their game plan, I think both had moments, but overall. I think a huge part, and I don't know if this was Leon's coach said this, but I don't know if it was Leon doing this, or maybe this is a couple signs of Kamaru Usman being 35 years old, who's a cage fighter, who's taking God knows amount of damage over between the years of wrestling and fighting and practicing and all this. Is he showing his age? He pressed a pace, but not a Kamaru Usman pace. Like it was still a very high output pace. But it was fought at the range and the speed that Leon wanted it. It was definitely more of a lower output kickboxing match.
Agreed.
Instead of a high scrambling wrestling. I mean, there was moments of that. And Leon Edwards, I'm not saying to take anything away from him. He had some incredible takedown defense.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what? It wasn't even that he was stopping the takedowns. he was stopping the completion of takedowns.
Yes.
Where even if he got him down to a knee or something, he was popping right back up. He wasn't letting that, like, all right, I'm sounding like just because I've watched a lot of NCAA wrestling, but the control points, like he didn't control them, you know, as I know, shout out to my boy Luke Wilson, who I was talking to all weekend long. He's a huge NCAA fan, so we were talking from the opening round until now, where you know, discussing takedowns here and there, and was this control? That was a big part of Leon Edwards. Like even when he was taken down, he like maybe one or twice he was flat against his back, and then he still found a way to work himself back up. And so yeah, Leon, he's not the most exciting fighter. He's definitely not the most exciting personality. He's just so technically sound. And that's what's going to be tough to beat. Like I've seen a lot of people in the chat saying, "Oh my God, Colby Covington would beat him," and Colby Covington's a fantastic fighter, and maybe he would, and especially with a different output in this. But like being confident that anybody would beat Leon Edwards to me is really shocking. To be like confident in that,
considering that the only person that's beaten Edwards has now lost to him twice. How would you be confident about anybody beating him?
That's right.
And especially considering that Edwards has performed better in comparison to Usman in each of the 3 fights. Like, clearly his longtime team is an underrated team at getting their fighters prepared for the opponent in front of them. In that, like, we got to fight the same guy again, we're going to take the stuff that we had from the first fight back to the drawing board. Because you know what the other thing that really just snuffed Usman's offense was? You've talked before about how Usman getting chest to chest to you against the cage is the closest thing to hell that there is in modern MMA.
Yeah.
Edwards did such an incredible job of denying Usman the clinch. And what he did was he won the head position battle before they even clinched. Like Usman came in as a shorter guy, and he was there for the intercepting knee every single time, because Edwards just kind of got a single collar, got his chin over Usman's head, and Usman all of a sudden is just charging at the perfect height. A less tough guy than Usman might have been hurt badly and stopped just by those knees, because he ate 4, I think, really flush, solid intercepting knees while he was trying to do his usual Usman thing, where I'm going to just grab a body lock, shove you to the fence, and then make your life hell. And he rarely even got him all the way to the fence, because he just got nailed with a knee instantly. And it was either Usman coming in too low or Edwards forcing him to it. But it was just really, really brilliant and took away one of Usman's most dangerous weapons.
Yeah, I think 1 foot out the door made a good point. Is just how big Leon Edwards is too. Like he's the one guy that Usman just can't muscle. You know, he's there's nobody else who's bigger than Kamaru Usman, but Leon Edwards is. I mean, he's taller, he's big, he's he understands how to use his weight, just little things, grabbing hand control, moving him. I think he did a fantastic job. Usman, even though I thought it was a draw, and again, like I'm 100% okay with Leon Edwards fighting. I'm glad that Edwards won, because I don't think I need to see a rematch, because I don't think it gets better for Usman. I think it gets worse.
That's what I was going to ask you. If you thought this was a draw, even if you thought this was a draw, you're less confident in Usman if they're fighting the 4th time later this year.
Yeah, and sure, there's a lot of pressure. You're coming into the guy's hometown, the crowd, and all that. But I felt like there was one point that one note I wrote down was just excellent coaching. I think from both sides. Usman's coach, I'm sorry, what's the guy's name? I'm sorry, the guy who did this.
Herbert Whitman.
I'm sorry, not Usman.
Edwards?
Edwards coach. He had that hoorah, stop feeling bad for yourself speech the last fight. He had another great one heading to the 5th round. I'm sorry, I know someone in the chat will throw it out there.
Yeah, thank you, please.
I thought he did a fantastic job, just what he was saying, but also there was a moment, and going into the 5th round, I don't know if you caught this, where this is right before my audio went off. It was like while he was talking to him, Edwards puts his head down, and he lifts him right up. He goes, no, sit up. We don't want to show him any signs of fatigue.
Yeah.
Which was just that mental, just like understanding in that moment, just a little mental thing that maybe that's enough where helps Usman dig deeper and have a better 5th round or something like that. And then I thought Trevor Whitman's advice, where he said, when he gets around that what I call like the warning, that black, like you have the cage and you have that octagon shape of like black tape. I like to call it like the warning.
The warning track,
Like,
totally.
yeah, like rush him, like run at him, get into him. And I think it was the perfect advice. I just don't think Usman could do it, because not even just the mental part of like, I'm getting in here and he's not going down and I'm working, but also that's when I'm wondering if there's signs of slowing down, because there was a lot of him standing in, Edwards in that warning range, and Usman just standing outside and kicking range and getting kicks instead of rushing him at that point. Just make it a nasty, grinding Kamaru Usman against the cage, hitting you with the shoulders, or stomping on your feet. Like, we didn't have it. We didn't have those moments as much as if I'm his coach, I'm screaming it like, now rush him.
Usman normally drowns people, and he never got to that place with Edwards this time.
They were in, you know what it was? It's wrestling somebody in a 4-foot pool compared to wrestling somebody in a deep end, where, yeah, it still sucks when your older neighbor or your older brother has you, and he's wrestling you, but it's different when you got him dragging you and trying to pull you down, but you're also got to kick your feet to keep yourself up too in the deep end instead of being able to keep your feet down in the 4-foot pool. And we didn't have that with Usman. Like, Leon Edwards had his floaties on. He wasn't going there. You know what I mean? He was go to the YMCA and they put that like blue like line thing up. So so the little kids don't go. He was holding on to that thing. He wasn't getting pulled in the deep end. The other thing, Usman didn't let his hands go enough. He really, I mean, a couple times he hit some stiff jabs, and he has this jab that like, it almost, when it lands, it like, there's like a sudden like freeze, like everybody freezes for a second.
Yes.
Where he just stings guys. He just didn't let his hands go enough, which goes back to, I think he's starting to show his age, where he can't let his hands go and wrestle, and like, he can't have that Rob really type pace.
I think that's part of it. And as much as he tried to claim that it was a non-issue and make a non-issue of it, do you think that getting iced with a head kick in that second fight was in his mind?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's part of it as well.
But I shouldn't. Well, obviously we're guessing, and it's hard to get in guys' heads and whatnot. But yeah, I definitely think it's a part when you've never been knocked out, you got knocked out. I mean, it kind of goes back to Colby Covington, Kamaru Usman too. Like, Covington went toe-to-toe with Usman in the first fight and did extremely well. Hurt him a couple times. And Covington let his hands go into the 5th round. And that's when he had his best moments.
Yeah.
Where, it's that you get knocked out, you get hurt, the guy can hurt you. Yeah, I mean, it's easy for me to say, hey, go out on your shield. But I'm not the one getting kneed in the face, kicked in the face, right cross, left uppercut. Like, that's, I get it.
Leon looked like a miserable guy to be fighting against tonight. He only threw the John Jones oblique kick to the lead leg like once or twice, but again, just that constant like flicking kick to the right side of the body. I'm sure it was a miserable night for Usman, just like frustrating. I mean, there's losing, and then there's just none of my usual shit works. Like, what's going on? And
which is, sorry, go ahead.
Just that's what Usman looked like after the 4th round. It wasn't like Edwards after the 4th round last time, where he just looked like he had checked out and his coach is yelling at him. But Usman was just like kind of 1,000-yard stare, like, I'm out of ideas. Maybe it's not my night.
Yeah, and Luke Wilson just said he was the mental battles. That's something that Usman usually wins, and instead, it was. Oh man, I'm sorry. I think someone's asking who won. I forgot to throw this up there for you guys, so
Ticker. There we are.
Sorry about that. I read this thing out, and
I made one for the NCAA tournament that I'm going to put up right now for Keith. I'm just.
Yeah, the only time I saw a little sign of frustration Edwards was at the very end of the fight, maybe the last minute. That's when Usman really turned it up. He wasn't concerned about, like, I think he almost accepted, like, if I get knocked out, I get knocked out. That's when he was really pressing the pace, and you could see Edwards like getting frustrated with having to fight Usman off his legs, and that's when Usman got a little bit of a takedown, and like, he had moments. It's just, it's much earlier in the fight. It's not the 23-minute, 24-minute mark. It's usually like the 3-4 minute mark where guys are getting frustrated, and that just simply was not the case tonight. So, what I want to before we get into the matchmaking and because I'm really interested because there isn't somebody in like, okay, a lot of times like, all right, this is the guy. I'm not even answering that ridiculous question by Juicex. We all know who wins that fight.
We do not take the name of Bo in vain on this show.
Yeah, jeez.
Okay.
Before we get into who there is, because I'm really interested because there is this, like, there isn't a guy that's like, okay, this guy definitely won. This guy deserves it. Based on merit right now, it might be Bilal Muhammad. Really,
that's the guy.
Okay, but we'll get to that in a second. But we'll get to that in 1 second because I want to talk about something, and I wanted to make sure we covered all the technical things of the fight before we get into this part, because I don't want anybody to think I'm taking away from Leon Edwards' win. Okay, Leon Edwards committed 4 fouls. There was 1 point taken.
Going for the Czech Congo hat trick. And there was a lot of chatter right when the show opened. And I mean, we weren't able to get to it because we had, 20 minutes of other stuff to talk about. Like some pretty strong feelings on both sides about whether the point deduction was merited, about whether it was too soon. Like, should the ref swallow their whistle in the high stakes fight? If you're a regular of this show, you know that this is one of my pet causes. I think fence grabs are the most undercalled, underpenalized foul, like common foul in the sport. I think they're worse than eye pokes. I think they're worse than groin shots because you know what? Eye pokes, I mean, they're always at least reckless, because the foul isn't poking someone's eye. The foul is approaching them with your fingers extended. So you're at least negligent if one happens, but there's a lot of, there are collisions happening. Nut shots can definitely be inadvertent, which is why I'm fine with there being a couple of warnings. But fence grabs are never accidental, and they're always fight altering. Like, there should be a point taken or a position awarded the first time.
Yeah. I'm glad that Jeff Berman said that, and I get that we can have differing opinions. That's why there's 2 of us on here instead of just one talking. I don't know if this had any effect, and I'm not saying it had an effect. Okay, so I just want to throw it there. That's why I purposely saved this to the end, because I know there's got to be one person saying, hey, that give Leon Edwards credit. You picked Usman, that's why you're saying this. I have an issue because I scored the round 9-9. But do I score the round 9-9 if it goes back in the position? Because that fence grab allowed them to be separated, which again, Leon Edwards might have easily separated himself anyways. Yeah. But if you remember, the first fence grab wasn't called. That helped him get up to his feet. And then the second one, when he's got to get mat return, he grabs the fence and they take a point. But they put Edwards back out in distance. And I scored a 9-9. If Usman gets put back against the cage, maybe he grinds out that the one position he wants to be. Maybe it's a 10-8 round. It's a 2-point swing.
Yeah, you
score 2 points the other direction. That we're talking about Kamaru Usman, the new UFC champion. Now, I'm not saying that would have happened. So that's why I don't even want to talk about this fight, because I don't want it. Just in general, I hate that we have different rules and with different referees, with different areas. Like, it is time. There was a time where we all got together and John McCarthy and all these guys got together. It's time to do it again and really clean up the rules that need to be cleaned up. Where I had Frank Trigg saying at me like, "Oh, you don't know the rules." Nobody knows the rules. That's the problem. There's like not. If you ask me to tell you the rules of baseball, I know the rules of baseball. Balk, maybe I might not know that good, but okay, that happens like twice a season. All right, but like this, I hate it. I hate that a guy loses a position. I hate that a fence grab benefited him. And in this case, Herb Dean gave a point. A lot of times they won't. They'll say, "Oh, that's a warning." Which is even worse.
No, completely agree. And the problem here is that it's Herb Dean, and so the problem is inconsistency, because there's good cop Herb and bad cop Herb, and tonight in the main event, Herb was very attentive, and he was calling things, at least for warnings, quickly. He took the point quickly enough that people are arguing about it in our chat, because he was also the ref in their last fight, and that one it was Usman who actually grabbed the fence a bunch of times, and no point was taken, and it probably altered the fight. Yeah.
So what I would like to see happen, and I think it really needs to happen, I think the top MMA organizations need for about a 2 or 3 week period, not book a card. They all get an agreement, and you have the top referees, representatives from the top commissions. I'm talking Vegas, New York City, Mohegan Sun, California,
Jersey,
a couple other ones.
Yeah.
You get them all together, and I think you get a representative from the top organizations, UFC, Bellator, One Championship. I mean, I know One Championship has their own, but I really think they need to get on board with other rules and get together and just iron out actual rules with situations. If a fence grab happens, do you put him back in position? Do they not put him back in the position? Maybe you ask the guy who got the point taken off him, do you want to be put back in this position? It sucks. Again, I'm not saying this fight was affected by that, but it was kind of ironic that he takes a point, and about 30 seconds after that, he gets kicked in the nuts again, second time in the same round, and then another. There was no way Herb Dean was going to take another point in England against Leon Edwards in the main event. It wasn't going to happen.
No. I mean, maybe if Mike Beltran had been in there. He's but no, Herb wasn't going to.
No way. I mean, Leon Edwards could have freaking did a speed bag to Kamaru Usman's nuts at that point, and there was no point. He could have did one of those. Who's that guy in Mortal Kombat that used to do the split and punch the guy in the nuts?
Johnny Cage.
Yeah, Johnny Cage. He could have Johnny Caged him in the nuts. You know what I mean? and his corner man could have threw salt in his eyes like Mr. Fuji used to do, nothing would have happened,
Yeah.
But anyways, enough of that. I just wanted that just a side note. So let's get into the matchmaking. Do you want to matchmake the champ first? Or you want to matchmake Usman?
Let's get the champ out of the way first. That's all right.
Okay. You don't seem excited. You don't seem excited about continuing a Leon Edwards title reign. You get almost like a.
I'm excited for Edwards' title reign. I'm just bummed for the obvious odd man out here, because it looks like the Covington thing is going to happen. And just at this point, anything that doesn't get Bilal Muhammad a title shot is just ridiculous. And the fact that, I mean, Covington's there. He's backstage, just eating up the spotlight, bringing down all the promotional fire. I mean, I understand why the UFC is advancing him forward, but Covington was there as a standby, and Muhammad was like, I had signed to fight him there, and he decided he'd rather show up in a pink blazer and talk on a mic than actually have a fight.
In fairness, it's always better to wear a pink blazer and talk on mic than fight Bilal Muhammad. Let's be honest. All right. What I do find ironic is that Covington, was it really offered to Covington? You know how guys talk. So, but sure. I'm not calling Bilal Muhammad a liar. So let's take him that he's telling the truth, or more that he has all the correct information. Okay, because I don't think he's lying. All right, they might have been preliminary talks and the UFC decided elsewhere, whatever. Good. But if you're the UFC and you have Colby Covington weighing in as a backup, but you offer him Bilal Muhammad, why wouldn't you have Bilal Muhammad as the backup?
If I had a guess, it's that Colby has almost no weight cut for 170, so it was eeasy.
Could be.
I mean, they announced it really late in the game.
It could be, yeah, but they do that a lot. There was times where guys weigh in, I didn't even know they was a backup.
Well, they had Usman in as a backup for Darren Till versus Tyron Woodley, and I'm like, dude, why would this is back in 2018? I'm like, dude, why would you do that to one of the guys with the hardest weight cuts in the division?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just and that very well might have been the case.
Yeah.
But to me, if Covington comes in and fights, say something happened, Usman, the rumors about his knee were true, and Covington came in. The whole thing about Colby Covington is the week of him talking shit and saying something crazy and him mouthing off to the UK fan. Like, you lose all of that. Say Saturday morning, Usman gets food poisoning and Colby Covington comes last minute. You don't get that. You get a quick little snippet that they cut. You know, they tape Saturday morning, Friday night, but you don't get Colby Covington.
Yeah.
Bilal Muhammad's never going to give you that. He's good. So might as well throw him in.
Like, and you might as well. And as bland as Bilal can be on the mic, as bland as he can be in the cage, this is almost the only time in his entire career that there's anything to spice up a Bilal Muhammad title shot, because he actually fought your champ and was reasonably competitive before the thing ended on an eye poke that was, by the way, committed by Edwards, like the foul master.
Yeah.
Like, this is the only time there's going to be any extra spice to a Bilal Muhammad title shot.
Yeah, like shout out to Tim Elliott at home with Gina Mazzani, just loving this fight tonight. Like,
Tim's like, just like we drew it up, baby.
this fight's fantastic. And no, I bet you Tim Elliott being like that guy, grab his dick and twist it. Give him the old dick twist.
But having said that, this fight made me feel much worse about Bilal's chances against Edwards. Edwards has improved enormously just in the last year or two, and he was already trending. I mean, he was already better than Bilal, but here I'm like, okay, if Usman couldn't take Edwards down and was just stuck on the feet with him and kind of getting outclassed on the feet, it's going to be bad for Bilal.
Yeah,
because Bilal's smaller, not as physically overpowering, and has less to offer on the feet. It's going to be bad.
The one thing about Bilal Muhammad is that he puts himself in the best situation. He's going to have the best. He's going to be the more conditioned guy. He's going to have the best strategy. He's going to, he's not going to mentally break. He's
welterweight morale.
The one thing I've learned from combat sports, more I watch, the more I have to stop saying like, no, this ain't going to happen. If you told me, and not to bring up wrestling, but if you told me that last night Spencer Lee was going to lose to Matt Ramos with 20 seconds left in the match and a match that he's winning, I would have laughed at you. I would have said, oh, Matt Ramos had his chance and Spencer Lee pinned him in the first period of the, there's a when top guys do things, there's a reason why they're top guys, that they do the unthinkable. I was thinking Usman Edwards, like if Usman wins, this is who I match. If Edwards wins, this is who I match. And Edwards, I went a different route. Usman 100%, I was going Bilal Muhammad because he's faced other guys in the division. He's faced Masvidal, he's faced Burns, he's faced Covington. So Edwards, there's a backstory. There's still a backstory with Masvidal. Now, do Masvidal deserve a title shot? No. He beats Gilbert Burns, though. He starches Gilbert Burns. You can market it.
Yep, you can.
So you bring it back. I don't know I know they were in England last time. I don't know where they were in England. Put them back in the same freaking arena. Put them in the same arena. I didn't care if it's even a small one. If Burns wins, I feel Burns kind of has the same argument that Bilal Muhammad. He might not be as long of a winning streak, but he's a guy who, like, based on merit, he's beat guys. Now, Anders Ratama is saying what he says he's going to mop the floor, might as well mark my words. Yeah, a lot of people feel that way. He's going to be I'm sure the betting lines are. He's probably a big favorite. I get it, but flying knee, whatever. Like, don't count people out. We weren't giving Alexa Grasso a chance a month ago, 2 weeks ago. So
I mean, you and I both thought Peter Yan was going to spank Merab.
Yep. So there you go. Yeah. What the hell do I know?
You know more than I do, dude. You went 10-5 on the night. I went 7-8. I'm under 500 tonight. Just every fight that we picked differently.
All right, so we're gonna take over as Ben has been fired after. I'm just kidding. That's why I shouldn't have that. That's why I shouldn't have that button. I'm sorry. What you said? You went 7-7. Well, I'm sorry. What you say? 7-8.
Yeah, 7-8, man. I got 7 fights right, 8 wrong. I am under 500. That is not
No,
pretty.
yeah. No, one was a draw, so you had to go 7-7.
Okay, 7,
You
7,
count
and 1.
because okay,
Yeah,
that's
I
it.
counted that being wrong. But yeah,
yeah. The harder guy, I think, is Usman because he's already faced so many guys. Even if you still think he's a top guy in the division, which he still showed enough tonight that he could. I mean, he was that close to winning the title, so he's still a threat. But his time is definitely running down. Juicek's better be fucking joking with me because I will hunt him down. He's trolling. There's no way he's telling me. There's no way. Fuck off. I love dude. If that happens, oh my god. Anyways,
the show's over.
Well, he should have did like a slam, not an elbow drop. But good, nice job, Juicex. But got me completely flustered. I don't even know what the hell I was talking about. I'm like I'm like Sam Patterson right now. I'm fighting referees. I don't even know what's going on. Usman. So he's fought everybody, so it's hard, do you want to see a third fight with Masvidal? Do you want to see a rematch with Burns? Do you want to see a third fight with Covington? Do you want to have him fight Bilal Muhammad? And what if he wins? Now So I went with I'm bringing a new blood. I'll get him Shavkat.
Same here. Now that that is saying, yeah, that's literally I said Rakhmonov / Chimaev, but I'd rather do Rakhmonov because Chimaev has blown weight too recently. But having said all that,
exactly, I don't think he can make the weight.
Having said all that, what I'd really love is Usman to move up to 185.
I literally wrote that down, or move it to 185. It's weird. It's funny because I never would have thought of Usman. He wouldn't be small. That's for sure. But then when I think about how big Alex Pereira is, like Alex Pereira he's seen it. I spent a week with him in New York City. When I first saw him, I came out. I don't know who was doing an interview. There was like nonstop interviews, and then I walked out to go to the bathroom or something, and I saw this big Brazilian guy, and he had like a hoodie on, so I didn't see his face too much, but he was huge, and I just thought he was like a corner, like a training partner or somebody's coming in. And then when I came back out, I go, holy shit, that's Pereira. And I walked away and I sat right next to Nolan King, and I'm like Pereira's the biggest human being I think I've ever seen in my entire life. He is huge.
But he dwarfs basically everyone at middleweight. But look, we had earlier tonight Marvin Vettori and Roman Dolidze, two good sized middleweights, and fully hydrated Usman that's not training to make 170 isn't especially smaller than either of them.
No, he's not. Okay, I'll put you on the spot. Who'd you match him against?
I'd stick him straight in against a top 10 guy. Maybe, honestly, I give him someone who's slightly on the backslide. Like, I guess Brunson retired. Maybe Cannoniers lost a couple recently. Yeah. Strickland. I mean, Strickland used to be 170 also. He's not going to be any bigger than Usman.
Yeah, Kennedy is the first guy I think of. But you know what? I'm going to throw this one up there. There's a little bit of a backstory. There's a little bit of a backstory between Usman and Duplessis that he actually moved up. Who's the real African? Yeah, have him fight in Africa, and the loser can't ever. Loser has to move. I mean, I know Usman doesn't live there, but
loser leaves continent match. Well,
Usman can't come. You know what? Here's the stipulations. Duplessis has to move from South Africa if he loses. Usman has to go by the name of Marty for the rest of his life if he loses.
Ooh. Oh man. I can see Covington's tweets already and his little Instagram shorts. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let me move on before I get myself in trouble. All right. Justin Gaethje versus Rafael Fiziev. Jesus Christ. We'll talk about Anderson Silva a little bit when we get to that inducted into the Hall of Fame. Can I make a suggestion? We put Justin Gaethje, we say, all right, a Justin Gaethje fight is getting in the Hall of Fame, and then we just induct every single one of them. Just Okay, the fight that's going to the Hall of Fame this year is every single Justin Gaethje fight. Put them all in.
Just he gets his own wing, the Justin Gaethje wing.
How is it possible that he has the most incredible fights with unless Justin Gaethje knocks you out in a minute, you're gonna have the most incredible, unbelievable. There was questions of when Justin Gaethje said, "I'm the most exciting fighter in the history of UFC." In the people asking this, is this true? Who would you? I didn't think it was a question like this. There's a debate like there's somebody else.
Yeah, there's nobody else. Like the other people that you would think of, like, and you'll never find a bigger fan of the man I'm about to name than me. But Justin Gaethje dusts Robbie Lawler in that regard.
Absolutely, that's exactly what I thought of. The only guy I could even think was Justin Robbie Lawler, and it was like a very short time. Like Robbie Lawler had this 3 or 4 unbelievable fights, and that like the Johnny Hendricks fight, the Carlos Condon fight, the Roy McDonald fight, the rematch with Roy McDonald. But it was like this one Gaethje. It's every freaking time. It's unbelievable. I have so many notes on this. I had notes where I was writing unbelievable stuff about Fiziev and saying, "Oh my gosh, so outclassed." Then I switched it to things Gaethje. I was writing Gaethje off, and then all of a sudden he comes back and. All right, let me start with this. How did you score the fight?
I scored the fight 29-28 for Fiziev.
Wow.
Or no, I'm sorry. I scored a 29-28 Gaethje. Never mind. Sorry.
Okay,
yeah.
You went 29-28 Gaethje.
Yeah, I gave him the second and third rounds.
The only reason why I'm saying wow is I didn't think we were going to agree, which we didn't, because I actually did score it for Fiziev. I gave Fiziev the first 2 rounds.
That doesn't bother me in particular. Like,
but it's one of those like I'm totally okay with Justin Gaethje. Gosh, who doesn't love Justin Gaethje? But let's get into the technical stuff. Just talk to me for a second, like, because I'm amazed by what Fiziev was doing, what Gaethje was doing, the heart of Gaethje, the mental tough. Like that's one thing about Justin Gaethje. His mental toughness is incredible. Like the change, like being clearly losing, getting beat up to the body, to have to like, just outspin, just not as technical, just looking like you're about to get destroyed. This is okay, Gaethje is done. Thanks for coming. Fiziev's a new guy. Nobody wants to fight him. To finding adjustments, suddenly jabbing. He's landing jabs. He's landing uppercuts in the 3rd round. He gets hurt in the 3rd round. Looks like, all right, Fiziev's going to put him away. Nope. Gaethje starts landing uppercuts and just he's controlled. Like if crazy Justin Gaethje, the one before Tony Ferguson came out, he would have got starched. But he's controlled, but still absolute chaos. And it's like he's like a car crash at like a test site. Or like a car crash that happens in NASCAR, like when NASCAR and like 8 cars crashed, even though they're going 200 miles an hour, but they still live compared to like the 40-mile crash on the highway and people die because it's different.
Yeah, it's it must have been somebody in the Sherdog editorial Slack that mentioned this. Something that surprised me was both guys were throwing mostly just hooks through the first round and a half. I was shocked at Fiziev's hand and foot. Well, I wasn't shocked. I mean, I know he has incredibly fast hands and feet, but
it's incredible.
He was landing successfully on Gaethje, who has a solid jab normally and decent footwork normally and has superior reach. And that was despite kind of getting in a hook fest with him. And he never really changed that approach, even as Gaethje made some adjustments throughout the fight. Gaethje started to throw, more straight punches. As Dev mentioned in the chat here, he started to force the clinch when Fiziev would tee off on him, very much like a boxer. That did not used to be Gaethje. Gaethje, when somebody rung him up, used to just bite down on the mouth guard, square up his stance, and start winging wild hooks.
Well, that just doesn't work. It doesn't work against a guy like Fiziev.
Yeah,
because we saw that in the first round.
Yeah, and just good on Gaethje to make those adjustments. And obviously, Gaethje's been hurt a ton. He's been knocked out a few times, like really, really knocked out. But he still has some of the most incredible recoverability in the division, in the sport. There's so many times in his fights where I'm like, oh, here's where the ball starts rolling downhill. Gaethje is toast. And occasionally he is, but more often he comes back and he's no worse for wear 40 seconds later.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. It's absolutely unbelievable. Yeah, the first round, when I was watching it, it wasn't a 10-8 round, but it was as like, I don't know, what do I saying? Like, okay, this is going to end extremely bad. And I was writing notes and saying like the speed of Fiziev and the body work, kicks to the body, the accuracy, everything he threw was landing clean. He was switching stances and he was battering him. Like, Gaethje's thinking A is coming at him instead B's coming on him. He's thinking he's coming to the left side instead he's coming from the right side. And it was just like someone blindfolded and you're like, you ever blindfold somebody and you do like pin the nail on donkey, but you start pushing them and shit. Well, they're trying to hit you and they don't know, like that's kind of happened. And he kind of made the angles he was cutting, and it made Gaethje really just bite down and swing in hard. And I'm sitting there like, wow, Gaethje is so outclassed. He's just going for Hail Marys.
Mm-hmm.
And then the beginning of the first, it comes down to the second round, how you score the second round. And I gave it to Fiziev, but a lot of people gave it to Gaethje. And again, I'm okay with that because it was really close. But the changes that Gaethje, suddenly that like he was throwing this short like overhand right instead of this winging one, it was just like short, like almost on like a just like a little bump, like a speed bump, not like this big coming around the mountain when she comes kind of thing.
Yeah,
and it started landing and it was great. The reason why I think Gaethje won instead of Fiziev, and we threw this up there when they said that was I'm sorry, I just missed who we just put their quote up there about the damage, the blood coming down his eyes.
Yeah,
blood looks worse than body work because Fiziev, a lot of the stuff he was doing was clean body shots, and you just don't score them the same.
No,
though we should. They just don't. Like a bruised liver doesn't get scored the same way as a bruised eye does.
And in their defense, or to their credit, the UFC booth does try to help that. Like if somebody is wearing obvious marks on the body, or like leg kicks have started to lump somebody up, they'll mention it and say like, look, his leg already looks bad, or look at the welt on his side. But no, there's something visceral about just seeing blood running down someone's face or their eye like all puffed up. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, it was absolutely incredible. The hardest thing when they announced the winner was, and this is before and after, was how hard is it going to be matched Justin Gaethje, because he's fought everybody in the division. You can't give him a title shot. He's already fought Charles Oliveira. He's already fought Dustin Poirier. He's already fought, if Beneil Dariush beats Charles Oliveira, you can't argue for Beneil Dariush to fight anybody but the champ. Like, I thought about doing Conor, and, but by the time he actually fights Michael Chandler, it's going to be, who knows if I don't know, the way he's tweeting, it might not even happen at all. But I feel like Gaethje and I'm going to throw this one up by Anna Luau. I'm sorry if I say your last name incorrectly. It kind of has to be, no? It doesn't have to be. It has to be,
I have
right?
on my sheet. The first fight was fight of the year for Sherdog in either 2018 or 2019, whichever year it was. It was round of the year. Like, Poirier has most of the same problems Gaethje does. He's fought almost everybody. It would take a lot for people want to see him fight Islam Makhachev or Charles Oliveira. So Poirier just needs a paycheck, an exciting fight. You make Gaethje Poirier 2. There's no way it can be as good as the first one. But if there are any two guys that can make another fight as good as the first one, it's those two. Like,
but the other funny thing is, they've changed so much, both of them guys. So they both became such cleaner since then, the way they strike, that who knows. And we'll sidestep for a second. JuiceX puts out that UFC is making Bilal versus Rahman. I don't know if was that announced at the press conference, like the post press conference.
I think he's watching the presser.
So that was just announced. Which, so poor Bilal Muhammad gets, so he doesn't get what you said, which probably means the winner of Burns Masvidal is getting that title shot. But
unless Colby is,
I don't think Colby did enough. Like Colby, you have to make a scene, and he'd made a little bit of scene, but Edwards sidestepped him just like he was sidestepping Usman today. Like the guy hasn't fought in like forever. Just boop.
I mean, we talked about like the unholy trinity of undefeated welterweight monsters coming up. Bilal's already taken down Sean Brady. If he's the one that hands Shavkat a loss too, like,
wait a minute. He's saying Covington is. Did they announce that Covington is getting the title shot? Wow. Put you on the spot. Who's the favorite? Who's the betting favorite, man? We're not breaking it down. We're not doing any of that.
Edwards. Edwards comes in as the betting favorite.
What's the line?
Really close, like -120, +100 even money for Covington.
I think he might be a little bit wider than that.
Really?
We're not a betting site, so like
yeah, we're not a betting site. We're just saying what. Yeah,
I think like -165, something like that.
Do you stick it back in the UK later this year? You got to, man. Like that would be so wasted at the T-Mobile Arena.
I mean, he's such a star. I mean, there's nowhere else that he's a star.
There's nowhere else he's a star, and Covington is almost more of a star when he can go into hostile territory and just draw heat.
There's nobody who.
I mean, tonight he already said their food sucked, their weather sucked, and their women sucked. Like,
well, the UK's weather sucks.
No, it was funny, like, because like a lot of people commenting on it were like, "I'm from the UK," and he's right on all counts.
I don't. I've been to the UK one time. It was very quick. I was actually going from an airport to another airport, but it was drizzling. Like just like I'm like, what a stereotype that it's raining.
Yeah.
But a lot of people saying that Colby Covington doesn't deserve it. You know me. I love the whole Colby Covington thing within reason. But sometimes he goes a little too far. Like the Kamaru Usman dad thing. Like that's too far. Like the guy, he did his crime. He paid his. He's paid his debt to society. Done.
Yeah.
Like calling Brazil like a dump. Like that's every bad guy from 1980s wrestling did the same shit.
Yep.
Mr. Perfect. Oh, Rick Rude or like.
Well, the hell, even like what's his name? Like Bret Hart. Like wrestling somebody in Pittsburgh. He's like, if I was going to give the United States an enema, I'd stick the hose right in Pittsburgh. He wasn't wrong. I grew up on the East Coast, same as you.
Yeah. So that's as long as he stays with the reason. But yeah, so it is the most marketable fight they could do.
Oh, yeah.
Other than Chimaev, but I don't think Chimaev can.
Or Connor. Now. Like if Connor
beats Connor, within reason, yeah.
If Connor beats Chandler at 170, they're gonna try to find some way to slip him into a title shot.
Yeah, probably. Probably so. But they have that, like, yeah, you're right. But right now, the guys who normal welterweight who are actually fighting, that's the most. But based on merit, he's definitely behind Burns and Muhammad.
Yeah, he's definitely.
So, that's so fun. Jesse C is absolutely right. Like Colby's coming with American flag, Revolutionary War. Yeah, absolutely. He's gonna bring up 1776 or some shit like that. And, he'll
make fun of like the Queen dying and shit. Like nothing is too far.
Yeah. Oh God, don't do that. Please don't do that. Yeah, don't do that. But if he wins, will he bring the belt to Buckingham Palace? Like is that? All right, so we agree. I'm gonna throw something out for you. Gaethje versus Poirier. I think it's the only fight right now, not counting a Karna fight, that you could make an argument for a pay-per-view main event for a non-title fight.
I would agree, just because they're still very high level. They are two very recognizable names. I'm with you.
Action guys.
Like action guys. Yeah, I mean, it's a fight where if it weren't, I'd at least want it to be a fight night main event, obviously, because that thing has to be 5 rounds. It has to be.
Yeah, or do one of these exceptions where it's it's on the main card, third from the top, second from the top, co-main event, but we're doing it 5 rounds. You had like that's those guys like Dustin, especially Dustin Poirier. Like Dustin Poirier's game is a fight. Like he's made for a 5-round fight.
Yes. Yep. A 155-pound Dustin definitely is. Yeah.
Even though Fiziev lost a fight that he was a favorite and against a guy like Justin Gaethje, I don't feel like his stock fell that much.
No, same.
No, his body might have. The damage you take, like that, might affect him moving forward. But thought of him, I actually think he probably made fans tonight.
I agree. I mean, it honestly may be the first time a lot of fans have had a chance to see him just on the main card of a good pay-per-view. Somebody asked earlier in the chat, and we didn't have time to get to it at the time. I just want to address it really quickly. They brought up the idea of Fiziev maybe dropping in weight, and it may even have been Dev.
Yeah.
I think he's got too much muscle on his frame. Like, it would take a complete retooling of his physique.
Yeah.
He's short. Like, he's only like 5'8". He was clearly shorter than Gaethje, but he doesn't look like a guy that could make featherweight.
Yeah. This is a perfect question by JuiceX. Michael Fidel works for Bellator, but before that, he was a MMA media guy, fantastic, brilliant guy, big into prospects, really, really great mind. I love the guy. The guy's fantastic, but he's playing the Bellator, and I trust me, I get it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I work for Sherdog. Sherdog's the best website ever. I get fired. Sherdog sucks. You know, Ben Duffy sucks. You know, I was carrying him for years. You know, like, I get it. So he has to play the game. But, you know, he says, oh, you know, based on talent, Usman to Magomedov's tough fight. Absolutely could be. Absolutely could be. But you know what else could be? Just in case, could also starch him, too.
Mm-hmm.
And so it kind of just proves, like, Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, these guys, like he said, these aren't just ranked squatters. They're not just taking top 5. Like, they are as good as it comes. Justin Gaethje is as good as any lightweight on the planet Earth on any given night.
Yeah. Just a little hint behind just a couple of people, but yeah, on any given night, he could be the 3rd best fighter in the world. He
lands one more punch, one more shot against Charles Oliveira, and maybe he's the world champion. Not he might have lost to Islam Makhachev, and you know, and so on and so forth. But the point is, yeah, that division is so incredible. The top guys, when I'm talking top guys, I'm talking Makhachev, Volkanovski, Oliveira, Dariush. Who else? Obviously, Gaethje and Poirier. Those are top 6. I mean, there might be 1 or 2 guys I'm not thinking of. So yeah, it's just absolutely incredible. Fiziev, who are you matching with?
I would keep him right in the same area. He's proven he belongs. I give him the loser of Oliveira versus Dariush.
Oh, you're going higher than I am. I when you said same area, I was still going top of the division guy, but I wasn't going that high. That's. I'm gonna go with the guy. You think I was him going against Gaethje and giving up size is bad for that? I see Ben Cooley throwing out Gamma. I thought about 2, but I feel like they're like the new blood, you know. So I want to say I'm gonna give him Dan Hooker.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you talk about Hooker.
I thought you were going to say Jalen Turner. I'm like, dude, why are you doing this to us?
Yeah, no, I'll do Dan Hooker. Before we're gonna breeze through this next fight, unless you really want to break it down. Gunnar Nelson took on Brian Barberino. One, I didn't think this fight should have been on the main card. I get it why it is, because Barberino's fun and Gunnar Nelson's just like mega star and
an adoptive son of Ireland, basically.
Yeah. I get that, but to me, if you said, Keith, pick one outcome of any fight, it's got to be dead on. It's got to be round. It's got to be method. It's got to be winner. You know, like they do these like fantasy things. You give me the entire card, I go, okay.
Nelson sub 1.
Gunnar Nelson, first round submission.
Which we both picked, and hey.
The fight was going on, man, and I was cleaning up our ticker. I was doing other stuff, you know. But this is exactly what I expected. Like, Gunnar Nelson's an absolute wizard on the ground. Brian Barberino is one of the worst grapplers in UFC history. Of course, this was in the first round submission. Yep. It was really both the first round and second.
And he decided to turn on the jets a little bit. Maybe he had some V8 to go drink, because we talked about it. Not only is he a wizard on the ground and probably a better overall fighter, but Barberena's specific problem, that maybe the worst defensive wrestling in the welterweight division, was not going to serve him well against Nelson. Oh, yeah. Anna Lou, we'll get to it when we get to it, but oh man.
Yeah, we don't mind eating, eating pie on our face. Like we're not a betting site, so we're not one of those Oh, well, we're up to 72 units, and
Sprinkle.
I get the can't miss pick, this week, but that's not us. Like shit,
Yeah.
I get fights wrong
Yeah.
all the time.
I almost
So-
enjoy being wrong about fights. If I get them all right, then I didn't learn anything. Like, why bother doing a
Yeah,
show?
that's true. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's why I like this fight is this fight right here is super boring. I just move on.
Yeah.
But what I always like to say is I root for me to go undefeated on my picks. Once I get one fight wrong, then I root for the most interesting thing to talk about.
Okay.
So I got the first fight of the night. I got the first fight of the night wrong. So I was the most interesting to talk about. Real quick, I want to matchmake Nelson. I'm gonna let you throw out what you do with Nelson because he's still pretty sized name, and even though he seems like he's retired almost the way he talks, and then we'll move on to letting people make fun of us for picking O'Neal over Maia.
Considering he only wants to fight once, maybe twice a year, and he only wants to fight in the UK, give him. It's just anybody who makes sense the next time the UFC's in the UK. Nicholas Dalby would be great. If he wants to fight this fall and Nicholas Dalby's available, that'd be a fun fight. Can Dalby keep it on the feet and bust him up? If it goes to the ground, Dalby's not a dummy down there. Or honestly, here's what I would love. If the stars line up right for Kevin Lee's UFC return, I would love to see Kevin Lee versus Gunnar Nelson. Like I don't know if they're going to do Scotland or do England again in the fall, but that would rule.
Yeah, I like Gunnar Nelson, obviously fighting in the UK. Definitely get him in Ireland when UFC returns to Ireland. But I got to go. And I never like to rush the young stars. This would be a huge test, probably a really tough stylistic matchup. But when I saw this tweeted, I was like, dude, this is kind of brilliant. Shout out to Sherdog's own Sean Sheehan. He was matchmaking, and nobody knows Irish. Nobody knows Irish MMA more than the great Sean Sheehan. He said Gunnar Nelson headlining in Ireland against Ian Gary, and I'm like, if you're saying Ian Gary's the next Conor, and and he's got the personality and the way he talks, and Conor was a star that became a mega star when he was in Ireland headlining UFC card. That could be Ian Gary's moment. I know that's a tough stylistic matchup, but
for Ian Gary,
I think so.
But that's fine because you know what, Gary isn't a guy that needs to be sheltered. His future greatness, whatever it is, whether he's a future great or just another guy, I don't think it's predicated on staying undefeated forever. Like it's not like Sean Sean O'Malley is going to take a serious hit the first time he takes like an uncontroversial loss. Ian Gary isn't that guy.
No. Excuse me. Yes, Sean is extremely biased when it comes to Irish fighters. He doesn't hide it though. Like if you don't hide it. Like Ben is biased on Houston guys, but he doesn't hide it. I am the complete opposite with New England fighters, but I might swing the pendulum a little bit to the other way. All right, before that, Jennifer Maia took on Casey O'Neal, with Jennifer Maia winning a unanimous decision. Is this the hype train wasn't real, or is this one of these, just too early, too soon? Like one of those ones when we look at someone's record, the champion one day, and we go, yeah, I remember when they lost this fight. Like, how are you feeling it?
Kind of in between those two extremes, because it was clearly too much too soon. And you know what? I knew it as soon as they walked to the cage. I was like, Maia looks like a grown-ass woman. She's got muscles. She's got 30 fights. She's in her prime. This is too much too soon for Casey O'Neal, and I got this fight hella wrong. But the thing that disturbs me more, or doesn't disturb me, but the things that got O'Neal to this point didn't work against Maia. She didn't have anywhere else. She didn't have a second plan. So I'm really interested to see what she looks like in her next fight. Because, and let me just give Maia her props here. Like, I don't want to make this the Casey O'Neal show when Maia just racked up a pretty effortless win over one of the 2 or 3 hottest prospects in the division. But like Maia, MMA, obviously it's far more advanced technically than it was 10 years ago, let alone 20, let alone 30. But even so, there are basic things that so few fighters do, even at the UFC level. And I thought Jennifer Maia beat Casey O'Neill simply by throwing in combination, just not throwing one punch at a time, mystified O'Neill. It allowed her to really kind of push around a fighter who was taller and had longer reach. In every exchange, Maia was first and third. Like, it was usually Maia coming forward, usually Maia throwing first. O'Neill would come back with one punch, and Maia would finish a combination because O'Neill also didn't have the power to really stop her.
Yeah, I don't think I disagree with that. I don't think she was the one coming forward. I think O'Neill was coming forward. I just think O'Neill wasn't. To me, O'Neill was trying to break Maia with pressure and volume, and Maia just didn't break. Like, it was, she was using the combinations of Casey against her, and she was easy countering, and it was because
Holloway Poirier.
She was trying to save 1-2.
Yeah, but kind of like Holloway versus Poirier.
Okay. That was a long time. I have to rewatch that fight, but she just kept throwing the same, straight jab with her left hand, straight right with her right hand, and Maia would just slide out of it, counter with like a 3-4 punch combination. And I think Casey O'Neill was head hunting a lot.
Yeah,
I'll say this. So we did mention, like, going from Roxanne Modafferi to Jennifer Maia is a huge jump.
Yes.
Do that after you just tore your ACL in between. So it's like Roxanne Modafferi, torn ACL, Jennifer Maia. No, it's one of those, like, hindsight is always 20/20. Like, if she wins, we're talking about, oh my gosh, we literally might have been talking about a title fight, or top 3 opponent, give her whoever, top 3 opponent.
If she beat Maia convincingly, I was gonna have her probably against a top 5 fighter in her next fight.
We have these moments, and we got to remember this, because we have, Casey O'Neill's situation. We also have, like, a situation where a month ago we were talking about Jessica Andrade versus Erin Blanchfield, saying, "Oh, she's the future, but she ain't ready for Jessica Andrade." And then she has this moment, which is why, like, Gunnar Nelson might run right through Ian Gary, take him down, submit him.
Yeah,
or maybe not. Maybe Gary throws a 5-punch combination and high kicks him and knocks him out,
Or, I mean,
so,
maybe Nelson doesn't tap him out in the first round, and all of a sudden he's blown, and Gary just rolls down on hill for him the rest of the 3 or 5 rounds. Yeah.
So I think that's what was kind of happening here. I like, the way she set a fight in the third. She looked a lot better. Like, her pressure started getting there. She was going to the body. She was throwing teep kicks, and it was like, you need to do that right from the beginning. But Maia's game. I mean, that's what someone put this in the YouTube comments. Even though I picked Casey, I understand what the person was saying. Like, this is Jennifer Maia. Like, she's a game opponent. Like, she's a tough test for anybody. This is a big step up in competition, and Casey O'Neill wasn't ready.
She has shoot box tattooed on her leg. If she wasn't the type of fighter she is, we would be making fun of her. Believe me. Like, yeah, Maia underrated.
Jason,
that's a question for the X's and O's people, but any adjustment would have been some sort of improvement.
I think one thing she should have been is cutting different angles. Like, she kept throwing, like, she stood right in front of her, throwing the same jab. If she just, threw a 1-2 sidestep and cut from a different angle, or 1-2, throw 1-2 sidestep to the right, throw the left body kick as you sidestep to the right, something like that. But just same down the line. And all Maia was doing is slip, counter a bigger combination. Or how about throw a hook at the end? Throw a 1-2 and then the hook. Something. 1-2 step in knee, something. Just the same 1-2 over and over again.
Neither woman threw very many kicks, and which I thought was interesting. I did not expect that to turn into almost a pure boxing match, but it wouldn't have been on Maia to make that change because she was winning the fight that O'Neill gave her. Would have been interesting to see O'Neill start to throw some kicks.
Yeah, I think One Foot Off the Door made a really good point when he said that this was Maia's 30th fight compared to
O'Neill's 10th.
Yeah, like that's a really good point, and then I think we saw some of that tonight. Anna Lou asked this question: Is she a grappler or striker? I think she's well rounded, but today she didn't look like a good striker. She has won a lot of grappling matches, but Maia is also kind of the same thing. Where is she a striker or is she a grappler? She's kind of great both. Or not great, but she's serviceable. But like she's good.
Yep.
You know, she's
and
I think
a lot more physical horsepower than O'Neal at this point. O'Neal is good at striking and grappling, but she lacks a certain physicality. You know, I think if Maia had wanted this fight on the ground, she would have been able to get it there, and O'Neal might have had trouble there as well.
One thing I was surprised before, I thought Maia was starting to fade a little bit in her career, was slowing down. I saw like a renewed speed in her too. Like she looked fast.
Yeah,
you know. Let's I wonder how much of an ACL was an issue in this. Who knows? Let's matchmake real quick. Maia, it's tough because she's on a 2-fight winning streak, but she's not the most marketable fight. With Alexa Grasso being the champion now, like she's kind of back in the mix a little bit. But there's a long line. I mean, you have Valentina Shevchenko. With Grasso being the champ, there's an even longer line than there was before. But you have Shevchenko rematch. You have Erin Blanchfield. You have Manon Farrow. Who else is there? There's
Miranda Maverick is back winning fights again. Like, yeah,
but there's also like those people that wasn't in the mix because they lost to Shevchenko. Like,
yeah,
like back in it. Like, so, if we're picking up the phone, she's probably 4-5 down. So, who you matching against next?
Well, J-Sex nailed it.
Santos. I'm sorry, Santos is another one. Another who could have been the champion. Sorry. Yeah.
J-Sex and Dev have both said it. I'm sorry about like the adorable animal sanctuary. She's gonna have to find a pet sitter because I'm giving Amanda Hibas the call.
Oh, why would you do that to her, girl?
Maybe Hibas wins. Like I think it's a great matchup actually.
No, she very well could. She just tricky.
They're almost the two best women in the top 10 that haven't fought each other yet.
Yeah, I'm going with another one, but it kind of similar matchup than what she had today in like the up and coming route. I'd go Andrea Lee, who's not the up and comer, or the winner of Andrea Lee versus Macy Barber. Okay. If Macy Barber wins, it makes more sense. If Andrea Lee wins, not as much. Maybe you go something else, but that's the matchup is going.
If Macy Barber beats Andrea Lee and then beats Jennifer Maia later this year, and she's like in the title picture by the end of this year, she'll be my comeback fighter of the year for 2023 in the Sherdog like year-end awards. Like, how written off was Macy Barber as a prospect?
Like, we always do that. We always do that with people too. So.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, remember when Robbie Lawler was done? Like,
oh yeah, I remember.
26 years old. Like that when he who did he lose? He lost to Pete Spratt and he was done.
Lost to Pete Spratt and then he was over like at 185, like almost losing to like Melvin Manouf in like Strikeforce or Bellator. Yeah.
Casey O'Neal, obviously, I'm taking her a big step back. Kind of, I'm putting her in a prelim fight. I'd still probably keep her on the pay-per-view. Like, usually the pay-per-view prelims are better fights than your prelims on a fight night. I don't know if there's any relationship going on, but I'm putting her in the UK, and I'm putting against Joanne Wood. I'm going Scotland versus Scotland.
I don't hate that. I mean, well, I hate doing that I can't say that about Joanne Wood now. All I know is a top 5 fighter was too much for O'Neal, and she's way too much for like the number 25 type fighters that she had been fighting. So I came in right in the middle. I said someone like Marina Moroz. That's like she's been alternating wins and losses. She's not quite in the top 15, sure, but she's not a chump.
Yeah, no, sure. That makes sense. Right before that, talking about title shots, we're talking about one of the greatest fighters who ever lived. We'll do really quick, but tonight Anderson Silva was announced going into the UFC Hall of Fame. To me, I think the most, if you were looking at fighters who aren't currently in the UFC and who aren't currently fighting, so not counting John Jones, to me, it was the most obvious pick. Like if you said, okay, you can only put one person in forever who's actively not fighting MMA. I mean, there's nobody else other than Anderson Silva.
Sean, I completely agree with that. If even as petty as the UFC has been over the years, who's allowed in, who isn't, it's so obviously a reflection of Dana White's personal biases and animus towards fighters. If you don't have Anderson Silva, you literally don't have a Hall of Fame if you're the UFC. Having said that, dude, Sean Sheehan pointed out something very interesting. All of those little interview segments.
Hold on a second. We already gave Sean Sheehan some love, so we can't give him too much love because then people start watching his show instead of ours.
And
unnamed, like because he's a smart man. He might
an unnamed source who likes to call us lads pointed out that a lot of those little interview segments about Silva that they ran during the induction announcement were 2 years old. I think the UFC has been sitting on this for a while because they thought they were going to be really mad at Silva about some of his other escapades into like boxing and I think they waited until the Jake Paul thing was over. They wanted to make sure he wasn't going to show up in like one championship doing Muay Thai or just something wild.
Bellator.
Yeah,
Bellator
the UFC sat on this for a long time. Yeah,
I asked Scott Coker out when we were talking about Fedor. When they were making a big deal about what was supposed to be Fedor's last fight in Russia, and he said, well, we don't have, we'll look at things. Do you guys have any suggestions? I said, how about Anderson Silva? And he was like, give that one. Ooh, that's a good idea. But I'll say this about Anderson Silva. When you think about Anderson Silva, and I just want to clarify because someone said GSP is close second. What I meant by that is if you were ranking the greatest fighters of all time, okay, number one, I put John Jones, number two, George. If I'm going down the list, okay, number one's in, number two's in, number three's in. Okay, Anderson Silva's 4 or 5, 6. Where I put him? Like he's the guy. He's a top guy who isn't in.
Yeah, like so GSP's in the UFC Hall of Fame. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why Anderson Silva. What I think about Anderson Silva, like if you go through all these fighters in the UFC and you think, give me one moment that stands out above all the rest. I could think of like a George St. Pierre moment. I can think of Anderson Silva's the guy. Like I don't know what that moment is because he has so many of that. Like, this is the greatest moment of Anderson Silva's career, and you're like, well, is it? Like, is it the debut against Chris Lieben where he lands something? It was something like 19 out of 20 strikes in his debut. Is it his absolute destruction of Rich Franklin in fighting for the title, where Rich Franklin's nose is never the same? It's still crooked. Is it one? And not the biggest name, but like first punch thrown against James Vick up. James not Vick was. I'm sorry. Who was the guy there? The 205 pounder.
James. Oh God.
Whatever. He just one punches the guy. Boom. Drops him the very first punch. Is it that like we always call it the Matrix moment against Forrest Griffin where he just slides by everything and just one little punch? Is it the come from behind moment against Chael Sonnen where like, oh wow, it's finally gonna be over for Anderson Silva. He's finally gonna lose. He's not the striking, and then he gets the triangle choke. Maybe it's the front James Irvin. Thank you, Juicex.
Yeah.
Is it the teep kick knockout, the front kick knockout of Vettori? There's so many moments for Anderson Silva. That's the thing I think I'll remember most about that guy.
He has the most ridiculous highlight reel. I mean, regardless of where you put him in the list of greatest fighters, he has the most ridiculous highlight reel of any top fighter ever.
Right now we do that top 10 fighters in different categories on Sherdog, and the entire Sherdog staff votes. Right now we're doing greatest strikers. I have Anderson Silva number one. I mean, he's to me
same.
How can you put anybody else over Anderson Silva? I mean, there's other guys who've been amazing, Jose Aldo and Connor and Phil and a whole bunch of people. But when you think of MMA striking, other than guys currently fighting, but just the overall sport, to me, it's Anderson Silva.
Yep.
All right, moving on. You know what thing else real quick about Anderson Silva? Anderson Silva is the only guy when I think of the top guys in the sport, the Demetrius Johnsons, your John Jones, your George St. Pierre's, those guys. He's the only guy to me that actually had a clear weakness and still was unbelievably good. Like, he was a weak defensive wrestler. Like, that was a huge Achilles heel, but nobody was able to, like, use that against him because he eventually was going to knock you out. Anyways, moving on. Kicking off the main card, Marvin Vettori took on Roman Dolidze. Scorecards kind of all over the place. How did you score this fight? Well, hold on. I scorecards on Twitter was all over the place.
Huh. Oh, I'm looking to remind myself.
All right, I'll go first. I had it 29-28 for Marvin Vettori. I gave Vettori the second, third round.
I actually did as well. Yeah, 2 and 3 for Vettori. Having said that, the second round, I mean, the first and second rounds I thought were both close. The second round was ridiculously close.
Okay, yeah, that's exactly right. It came down to, the volume and accuracy of Vettori versus the pure power of Dolidze. Yep. I feel like a lot of questions were answered. One, Vettori, he's much more controlled. He, was landing his shots. I think his chin really stood up, which is really impressive to me, being that, such a power punch from Dolidze, who's had these incredible knockouts, but that he stood right in front of him, almost in a Muay Thai. Like, he wasn't avoiding, he was standing, just slipping a little bit, just shoulder rolling a little bit, which was impressive. And Dolidze, I also feel like the same thing, even though he lost, and a lot of people think he won. Like, I looked at MMA decisions, it was 14 votes for Dolidze, 13 votes from Marvin Vettori. So it was as close of a split down the middle as he goes. I still feel like he answered the questions that, yes, he has a top middleweight. While he can't put on this unbelievable pace, he also didn't slow down. If he can control himself and not go crazy, similar to like a Jared Cannonier or even like a prime Yoel Romero, he's dangerous. And he's still kind of, he can be polished up a little bit.
For a guy that's 33, I think, he has a bit of prospect feel to him. He doesn't have that many fights, and he really doesn't have that many fights at a high level. He's only been in the UFC for like 3 years now. Before that, he was completely out of the sport for a year or two. And before that, he was fighting very low level competition in kind of the CIS and Central Europe. So yeah, for as long as his body holds up, he's probably going to keep improving.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I felt good about him. Marvin Vettori, I mean, it's tough to book Marvin Vettori because, kind of the same situation when you're top guy in the division for a long time, it's hard not to do rematches. There's some couple of young guys in the division, but overall, that's not the highest, prospects coming up, or the prospects who are coming up, they're still like not banging on those doors. Like, it's like Duplessis, he shouldn't be a prospect. You know what I mean? Like the new guy on the block, Duplessis, Shemaev, if he actually fights at middleweight, obviously Bo Nickel, but like, if I'm being realistic for Bo Nickel, you're not going from Jamie Pickett to Marvin Vettori, or Jamie Pickett to Trayshawn Gore and Marvin Vettori. So I'm going with the matchup that Dev just threw out there. I'm going with Jared Cannonier, two of the veterans in the division.
That's the exact one I have down as well. Just Cannonier and Vettori are both kind of in a holding pattern until Adesanya and Pereira sort things out. They can sort each other out. Cannonier is getting older. I mean, Cannonier is 38, 39. So yeah, the go time is now if he's going to get another title shot, but also he has a limited number of paychecks he can collect before he's done. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think you push one guy closer to the title shot, keep him still in the picture, and the other guy, you get another loss in the division, you're kind of out of it, you're way down. Dolidze, I'm not going to drop him down too much. I still think I think Jusek's just nailed it. I'm going with the winner of Chris Curtis and Kelvin Gastelum.
That's the one I had as well. Like, everybody's just usurping all of my picks. Like, I'm just going down. Nope, everyone's calling them. But it's the same.
I'll let you go first next time.
It's the same as Gaethje and Fiziev, where the losing fighter, quote unquote, arguably won and proved that he belonged with the top 10 in the process.
I agree.
So
yeah, not a lot of stock loss. I totally agree. Not the bond burner. I think we were kind of hoping more of a Vettori, Paulo Costas, slugfest, but satisfied. Before that, we had Jack Shaw moving up in weight, taking on Makwan and Murakami. Jack Shaw winning by second round submission. Ben, just talk to me about this for a second.
I am happy to see Jack Shore get back in the win column, especially after that just gut-wrenching post-fight interview where he talks about his dad like in remission from cancer, and like it makes you happy on a human level that he had a win to celebrate. But having said that, that's 2 fights in a row now where Shore, his wrestling has not worked and it's been to his detriment. Like I'm not saying it flat out didn't work.
You got a second round submission. I don't know if I'd say it didn't work.
But he was having problems like with Amirkhani until then, is all I'm saying.
Amirkhani's a good wrestler though.
Yeah.
Like that's his game.
I was surprised. Just Shore, he was not a huge overpowering bantamweight, but I thought he was a very underrated wrestler, and more importantly, his game kind of on the feet as well as on the ground ran off him being the better wrestler, just kind of through persistence and technique. This is 2 fights in a row now where it hasn't looked quite as airtight. So I'm cautiously optimistic about his prospects at 145, and he could stand to put on a little bit of muscle.
Yeah, so can I. Yeah, I understand what he's saying. Like he didn't blow him out of the water, but I feel a little bit better about Jack Shore than really. It seems like everybody in the chat kind of agrees with you, saying, not the future guy, this and that. He's still pretty young, but there's no thing about him. He reminds me of, and this is just from a comparison, since not the skill, but kind of the rise of Leon Edwards, where when he's rising up, I'm not like, wow, look what Leon Edwards did. Wow, like everything he does is amazing. I still don't feel that way about the guy, but more of, well, he's just kind of good at everything. And that's why I kind of feel like Jack Shore. And he's one of these guys, I think he's intelligent. I think he puts him in a position. And I did think, I saw him in this, I don't know what you call it. It's like a survivor pool with Sean Bitter, who's a fantastic guy when it comes to prospects and everything. He's like a genius. He's like the Mel Kiper of MMA when it comes to prospects. He puts it together. He does a really good job.
Follow Sean on Twitter. It's MMA Wizard with 2 Z's.
Yeah, we got to get Ben in it next time, Sean. So I'll give you a free promotion for it. He does little, I don't know, it takes maybe 10 weeks, 12, whatever, how many events. You start with 3 guys. You pick 3 guys. Once you lose, if they lose, you lose a pick. Next one, you only get 2 picks. If you lose again, you have 1 pick, all the way down to you have no picks left. The last guy with a pick wins. Jack Shaw was one of my picks. I thought stylistic. So I went Nelson, I went Jack Shaw, and I went Muhammad Mokaev, which is a little bit more scare than I it just started this. This is the new season, but a little scarier than I thought. But stylistically, this is just a bad matchup. I forget who else. I think it was Alan McDonald mentioned about Makwan Amirkhani. Cardio is such an issue with him. He can come right out the way. If he doesn't submit you right away, he's gonna gas. I really think he might want to move up to. I mean, he's a little older and stuff, so it might be a little too late. But he might want to move up to 155 or something, get a little more liquid in him. Maybe he won't gas as hard because this quick pace rush for submission is just not working, especially against a guy like Jack Shaw. That was this to me was an easy fight to pick.
There you go.
Okay, so I'll let you go first. We'll matchmake. This will be the last guy we'll matchmake because we're not going to matchmake Chris Duncan next. But
I just want to give him a guy that's not ranked but has been winning fights since Short is coming off a win. I thought Josh Kulabau would be a good one.
Josh Kulabau is so much better than I would give him. He's so much better than I think he is.
Yeah, he's the Jonathan Martinez of 145. Where I thought he sucked, and then I turned my back, and he won 5 fights in a row. And I'm like, shit, I've got to rethink my whole thing about this guy.
Yeah, Jonathan Martinez is good too because they're both like they don't look like tough guys. Like if you saw him at a bar, you'd be like, I could take that guy. Yeah, the more I go to bars as I get older, the more I look at someone and go, I could take that guy. Just gets less. Like 20 years ago, I'm looking around the bar like I'll fuck up anybody. I'll fuck everybody up in this place. Now I look around, I don't know if I'm being the waitress. Like, you know what I mean? Does she look like she does jujitsu? Like, what's up? She might take me. I don't mind that. I went with a veteran. I figured a guy who's tricky and tough everywhere, and then kind of being maybe an easier win than Kulabao, but like a bigger name. I want Alex Caceres.
Oh, I like that.
So
I like that. I like that. Great.
Before that, a fight that we were kind of expecting that maybe we would have a banger. Instead, it wasn't. Omar Morales took on Chris Duncan as Chris Duncan pulled off the win in his UFC debut, winning by split decision. A lot of people were extremely upset about Omar Morales getting a scorecard. I'll say this: I scored it for Duncan, and I don't think it was as bad of a scorecard as people think, because Duncan got takedowns but did nothing. Like, kind of pinned him against the cage and really didn't do much. And then when they got on the feet, Morales landed a couple shots. So I could think if you go by the letter of the law, what's effective grappling, the damage is supposed to be the first thing. I do think you could score the fight from Morales. I don't know if this is the one that you'd use that as example, because there really wasn't much damage on the feet. Yeah. But how did you score? Like, was it definitely Duncan, or?
I gave it to Duncan. I gave him the second and third rounds. I think you can make a case for giving the second round to Morales. My real problem was that judge gave all 3 rounds to Morales. Like, it was 27-30 on the opposite side of a splitter. That was the problem for me. I mean, I thought the last round was pretty clearly a Duncan round.
Yeah, no, I agree. So I'll say this. Duncan fought the complete opposite as he was on Dana White Contender Series. Contender Series. Both of his fights was, big haymakers. One of the greatest knockouts in the history of the show, based on like he's knocked, dropped, spinning around in circles, and then throws this haymaker as a guy coming back in and knocks him out. It was absolutely incredible knockout. But this was a snoozing wrestling. A lot of stalemating. If this was the NCAA's, they would have pick him back up. Just in wrestling, you can't hold on to the lower leg for more than 5 seconds. You get hit stalling call. We didn't have it. We need an NCAA wrestling referee out there for this one. But I'll ask this question, and this is going back to what we talked about in the main event. More of what is effective grappling. What is effective wrestling grappling? And I really think it needs to be defined better, because I think someone said, controlling isn't damaging and this and that, but I agree. And that's what they've clarified, is that damage is supposed to be the number one criteria. But like, did Morales do damage? I mean, he landed some punches.
I mean, he did minimal damage. Like, the stuff that Duncan did on the feet, I thought outweighed it.
Yeah. Because I could argue this, and I'm not arguing either way, because I just a second ago I argued how you could score from Morales. So I'm trying to take both sides. I think you could argue effective grappling is your job, Omar Morales, is to punch me in the face. If I can get you to not be able to throw punches for 13 out of 15 minutes or whatever it was, isn't that effective? Like, you couldn't go on offense. That's pretty effective. Now, again, I'm arguing both sides, which is why I think we really need to have concrete definitions. This is it. That's why I really think we are way long overdue for like cleaning up the rules. So, yeah, John Butterfield asked this question: Is grappling damaging? I don't know. I mean, it can be, but
absolutely. Like realistic submission attempts are damaging, even if they don't result in a tap. And that used to be a problem with scoring a lot more 10 or 15 years ago. Like, somebody would try for an armbar, and if the guy gets out of the armbar, in the minds of a lot of viewers, that counted for nothing for the attacking fighter. It absolutely does. Like, I went out for drinks the other night with a friend of mine who he trains seriously. He's now a ref and judge here in Texas.
Oh, I thought you say Alex Moreno.
No, Alex doesn't drink, I don't think. But he could barely talk because he had waited too long in a rear naked choke at training like 3 hours before. Like, his throat still hurt. Like, submission attempts that don't result in a tap are still damaging. Well, hell, look at Mokaev's leg. You know, like
that's a good point. I was going to mention the same thing.
Realistic submission attempts are damage in the same way that ground and pound is, in the same way that strikes on the feet are. Yeah.
So did you just announce that? So your friend used to be a fighter, but now is a referee, and he's from Houston?
No, he's trained grappler. He's competed in grappling. He's never fought in MMA.
Oh, because I thought you were trying to announce to everybody that Derek Lewis is now a referee. I thought that was
because he's a great professional wrestling referee. Oh my goodness!
Did you go out drinking with Derek Lewis a lot?
No.
Sam Patterson took on Yanal Ashmos. I apologize if I said his last name wrong. Both guys making their UFC debut. I'll say this: we don't brag about making picks right or wrong. I only care if we pick how the fight went. Like, to me, if you pick the right winner but not how it went, doesn't really matter. Now, I picked Ashmus by wrestling. That obviously wasn't the case. But one thing I did say when I was watching tape study of Sam Patterson is that he throws naked leg kicks with his chin high in the air, and someone is going to absolutely starch him with one punch. I wish I said it was Ashmus, but I'm taking a little bit of credit. I'm taking a little bit of credit on this one. But
you got closer to the hole on this one than I did. Wow. I mean,
not a good showing from Patterson in your UFC debut. That's
no, because it's one of those things where sometimes when a high level fighter loses a fight, we will say on the recap, yeah, but how many other people in the division are watching that and taking notes and saying I could do that? Whereas just about everybody in the UFC lightweight division is like, oh, okay, yeah, I've got the book on Patterson. You're muted, Keith.
Sorry, this is going to get him questioning if he is even like UFC level. Because I think about this. Like, so my daughter plays softball. She's a very competitive softball player, very good. But there's levels. There's A division, B division, C division. There's Jenny Fitch. There's all kind of stuff. So I was talking to a parent, and kids' team's good. There's some good players in the team. They're good. But they told me about it. They went to this Jenny Fitch tournament, and those are like the top people. And they were like, we knew we shouldn't have been here the very first inning. Like, the very first inning, they knew, oh, this ain't gonna be fun. Like, we paid for hotels, and you might want to cancel the second night now. Try to get a discount. I wonder if Sam Patterson is gonna have some of those, because that's not good.
Yeah.
Before that, Muhammad Mokaev took on Filho. Much better performance by Filho in his UFC debut than Sam Patterson's. Much more competitive fight.
He won the fight.
Ooh, Ben taking a hot pick.
Mokaev tapped to the guillotine. Ref didn't see it. It's clear as day on replay. Mokaev tapped.
Really? I did not see any of this.
Mokaev should have a loss on his record right now. Like, it's not a one thing. Like, tapped on his rib panel like 5 or 6 times.
Really? I honestly, I didn't
this shit should be overturned.
What did they show it on the replay or something?
People in the arena, like I don't know if it came up on the replay on the broadcast. I saw shots from the arena, people like showing like video they took, and including replay on the overhead. But yeah, like ref was on the wrong side. He was out of position. Like 5 or 6 taps. They should overturn this. Mokaev should have a loss.
Was it like a Matt Lillin style?
Well, except that he didn't even have the.
Are you talking about the very first
I think it was the first round. Yeah.
Like he was because I'm trying to remember, because we're talking about I don't know what, 8 hours ago maybe now. Filho had a guillotine early.
Oh no, it's late in the second. It's in the second.
Was that when Mokaev was almost not completely on the ground? He was standing over him a little bit.
Yeah.
And then eventually he gets to the side. He clears the legs next to the cage.
Yep.
Wow. I did not see that. I didn't know. So did you see it on Twitter? How did you?
I saw it on Twitter.
Wow. All right. So maybe it gets overturned. Again, I didn't see that. I'll take your word for it.
But even without that, I thought Filho looked good for his debut.
I think he looked real good too. Even in a loss, that's a tough matchup. Muhammad Mokaev is a guy who's really hot. I'll say this about Mokaev. I feel like there was like two sides. There's a good side and there's a bad side. That what I saw. The good side is, I mean, he's an excellent wrestler. The way he cuts corners so quick, really understands driving and cutting. He's obviously super young, so he has tons of areas of growth. I love his mindset, like when he's got this knee bar on that's looks like a his knee is turning like an apostrophe. Like it is looking super painful that he finds a way to not only fight the pain but then get a submission later on that same round. I think he obviously has the mindset, and then also he has a little bit of Tim Elliott cheating in him, so he can kind of fake tap and everything. So that's the good. The bad thing is, one is the injuries. I mean, he's already has a shoulder injury. Now he probably has a knee injury. And he kind of gasses at times where, like in this, we talked about in his fight against Malcolm Gordon, even though he got a late stoppage, he slowed down great in the third round of that fight. This fight against Filho, I apologize if I'm pronouncing his name wrong.
No, you got it right.
Okay.
The same as Paulo Filho. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
So that's what I was going with it. In this fight, the second round, he almost took the entire second round off. Or like a huge 3.5 minutes of the round. He just took it off. Now that might be a good thing. Like he might understand his limitations, and that's okay. But a guy who presses a pace and everything against him, it could be an issue. You give rounds away, and suddenly you lose 2 rounds and you lose the fight.
Yeah, and it's a more viable strategy once you get to the point where you're fighting 5-round fights every time, but you might not make it to that point. Like I'm still
maybe
Mokaev.
Sorry, I was thinking maybe Mokaev tapped because he didn't understand the rules. He thought he lost that round, not the whole fight. Chael Sonnen saying that, but still, like I was saying, no, Chael Sonnen likes to troll. But that was he is a gift that just keeps on giving. He's fantastic.
Yes.
Sorry, you gotta finish what you were saying.
Just that I'm still high on Mokaev as a prospect. Just tons of experience, outstanding physical tools, well-rounded skills, super young. But yeah, he's got a few things to work on, and he's probably going to take a loss at some point, before he really hits his peak. Like he's not going to be bulletproof. Minus 800, coming in as a minus 800, minus 900 favorite, and almost getting winged. Like, it's a problem. Like Malcolm Gordon had his moments against him too. Yeah.
Anybody who has that video, tag me on Twitter or something in it, so I can check it out.
I mean, a couple sites even have articles up about it right now. I don't know whether Sherdog does or not yet.
Okay, wow, that's
man. And they made Mokaev talk about it at the post fight presser. He denied it.
Oh, somebody asked who asked him.
I don't know. I wasn't watching the video. I was reading a transcript.
Well, I don't know who asked him, but shout out to that guy, because a lot of times you go to these press conferences and guys don't want to ask the tough questions. So whoever did. Shout out to you. So good job doing your job. Before that, Lerone Murphy took on Gabriel Santos, winning a split decision. Do you agree with the decision? Because I don't. I scored it 29-20 for Santos.
Yeah, I scored it for Santos as well. Like I thought he won the first and second rounds.
That's exactly how I had it too. I checked MMA decisions. It was 14-2 for Santos. It was one of those ones like I don't call it a robbery because it was really close. Like this, I think the second round was very competitive. Could have went either way. And then the third round, I did give to Murphy. I'll say this, and this is Murphy's a good. He's got a good record. He's fought some good guys in the UFC. He's technically still undefeated. One issue, so you've heard me say this on previews many times, and shout out to you guys who watch the previews. One thing I say about on the previews is I hate pillaring as a line of defense. I think it's the worst striking defense. And if people who don't know what pillaring is very common in boxing. And I'll demonstrate it real quick. It's this. It's hiding behind your arm. Something like I always say, like Tito Ortiz used to do it a lot. And the reason, there's 2 reasons why I don't think it's effective in MMA, why I think it's the worst defense. One is because of the size of gloves in boxing. You call it pillaring, and other people say turtling up. where you're kind of like a turtle in your shell. Because boxing, you keep your shoulders high, deflect things, and then you duck down, and you got these big, huge like pillows in front of your box, and you kind of hide. Boom. But in MMA, you can't do that because you got little gloves. So you have little openings. There's an open straight down the middle. It opens on the side. That's one reason. But the second reason, and this is to me, I think is the perfect fight to show that, is when you pillar like this. Now you I can't show it completely because you have to crunch down a little bit. Your legs are wide open. Your body is wide open. 4 takedowns. Santos kept taking Murphy down. Now Murphy, to his credit, did a very good job of getting back to his feet. But Peekaboo is a little more to the side, but you're kind of using shoulder. Peekaboo is also offensive style too, but yeah, similar than what he asked. But no, the actual defense between the arms is called pillaring. So different gyms call it different places. But it opens you up for takedowns, and that's what exactly Santos. He throw a couple shots, get him to pillar, and then shoot right underneath. So if you want to see if you were wondering what I'm talking about when it comes to pillaring, this is the perfect fight to talk about where he kept getting taken down because of it. Talk to me, Ben, about this fight.
Just that I thought Santos won, and if this had not been on such short notice and Santos had a little more left in the tank in the third round, I think it would have been unquestionable, or it might well have been unquestionable. I thought the 10-8 scorecard for Murphy in the third round was one of the worst individual scorecards of the year, but because of the relatively low stakes of the fight, I think it's probably going to get swept under the rug because just bad stuff. I mean, I said on our preview before kind of handing the mic to you, I believe Laurent Murphy's a really good fighter, but I can't prove it. Tell me if I'm wrong. This left me more concerned about him. This showed me actual holes in his game, maybe for the first time in his UFC run.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. His takedown defense is going to be a huge issue, especially upper echelon. One thing I do like that he did in the third round is, and he won because of the pace, he really held back his power into those openings, and that's a good sign for somebody. Wasn't wasting his energy. So he does. I don't want to bag the guy too much. He did win a fight.
Yeah, I mean, he stayed undefeated.
He's undefeated, and he's been in the UFC for a long time now. Before that, Dusko Todorovic took on Christian Leroy Duncan. Extremely quick fight as while they were pummeling, Todorovic twisted his knee. Looks like there's some kind of knee injury, possibly torn ACL, meniscus, something. My biggest issue is obviously I don't like seeing guys get injured.
No.
We like seeing guys get hurt, like doing violence to each other, but not injured. That said, I learned nothing about Chris Leroy Duncan, the guy that we had a lot of questions about making his UFC debut. I just what I hope they go, okay, he fought for 1 minute, took really no damage. Weight cut issue might be a little bit, but let's get him back on the card and within a month.
I would like that. That's all you can ask for a guy that's now 8-0. Just keep him busy. 8-0, 28 years old. Keep him busy. Even if this fight went further, it wasn't going to teach me what I really need to know about Duncan. And I'm not in a rush to learn it, but sometime in his next, say, 2 fights, I do want to see what he looks like against a decent-sized UFC middleweight that wants to take him down. 185 does not have the backlog of wrestlers like 170 does, like 155 does, but he's going to run into some sooner or later. I mean,
except for the best wrestler.
Yes. Yeah. I mean,
all right.
I mean, obviously, Israel Adesanya with that third round against Pereira, he really kind of staked his claim.
Yeah. Speaking of which, before that, Jake Hadley took on Malcolm Gordon, winning by first round knockout. Hadley's a guy that came in the UFC with a lot of hype. Not the best performance in his UFC debut. Looked really good his last 2. Beautiful body shots. Was it his body shots? They did talk, Michael Bisping, even before Malcolm Gordon talked about injuries to, he kept mixing up kidneys and liver. I know we have liver shots, but kidneys obviously get affected by weight cutting. I don't know what it is, but still like organ issues. So I don't know if it was a great body shot or also, the right opponent to land it to. But to me, it's like absolutely spectacular performance by Hadley. Talk about it.
Absolutely spectacular performance by Hadley. We've learned a couple times over the last year or two, if your opponent misses weight, go to the body. It might pay off. You know, as always, impressed by Gordon in defeat. Gordon is going to be like another flyweight. In fact, a flyweight he once fought, Jalga Shumagalov, and that he's going to lose a million fights and get kicked out of the UFC, but he's going to have had his moments in each one. Gordon, I mean, he missed weight, so that answers how he can be that big. But at his best, he has excellent hand and foot speed, decent power, and he's huge for the weight class. Too huge, obviously. But Hadley came in with he came in with the right game plan. Just crushed him with that body shot. And seeing someone react to a body shot in slow motion is one of my quiet pleasures as an MMA consumer. Just that moment when the message gets from the torso to the head, and they go, ooh. And Gordon absolutely had that moment. From there, Hadley could have just walked off and waited for Gordon to kind of like just lay down and like tap the canvas. Death. Yeah.
Yeah, really, really good for a young guy. You guys probably saw me for a second, like talking off to the distance while I was muted. We normally don't do these shows at 10:13 p.m. It's usually like at this point, it's like 3:13 p.m. normally after pay-per-view. So that's me talking to my family, asking them to be quieter in the other room. So that shit happens when we tape it this time. One guy, Brian Conley, asked about Hadley versus Mokaev. They both talked about each other pre-fight, post-fight, all this stuff. Usually we try to avoid these young guys facing each other, but sometimes, like, all right, just have the guys. We'll find out who's real, who's not. They keep mentioning it. Okay, just book the guys. Put them co-main event and a England card. Build up this big rivalry. Let's just do it, I guess.
Sure.
Thoughts?
I think that's fine. I mean, we had no way of knowing at the time that kind of throwing Leon Edwards and Kamaru Usman against each other in like their second and third UFC fight would turn into something down the road. Sure. I don't hate it. And it helps that they're jawing at each other. It's,
Yeah, absolutely. Before that, Joanne Wood took on Luana Carolina. We had a kickboxing match where
I'm so stupid. I am so stupid.
Yeah, we both are. I picked Carolina too. Wood was a better kickboxer, more technical. I forgot about this fight. I was doing the ticker and I was writing down the results, and I think I was right after like the Hadley fight was over. Like one fight later, I like already put out this fight out of my mind. Like it wasn't terrible. It just okay. They fought each other,
and it was this thing that it seems to happen at women's flyweight in particular. And it's not just the women thing, it's specifically women's flyweight where, okay, this is a kickboxing match. It's 3 minutes into the fight. I already know who's going to win, but I also know that neither of these women has enough power to finish. So I'm going to go get something to eat. Like it is the women's flyweight kickboxing match is the like unranked heavyweight slobber knocker of like the women's divisions. Is like the low power mid-paced women's kickboxing match. Just
Yeah, I didn't get up to eat, but I probably should have at this point. It was a split decision. I don't think it should have been 19 out of 19 on MMA decision. Scored it for Joanne Wood. She kind of kept her UFC run alive. Before that, Jai Herbert took on Ludwig Klein, winning. It wasn't. It was a majority draw as Jai Herbert got a point taken off of him. He had 2 groin shots, but the second groin shot, controversial as it looked like it landed on the hip. Michael Bisping like famously said, "I know I don't pee from my hip. Do you?" As he doesn't think Klein was hit. The angle it showed, it did not look like it hit him on the hip. I'll say this about Herbert, regardless. So if you don't take a point, he should have won. He's super big. He's even bigger than I remembered. He's an underrated grappler. I was surprised how successful he was on the outside. Like Klein really struggled to get past his range, especially his kicking range, stayed in that range. So that's only that's really like good showing. Like Herbert has been matching against some really tough guys. even when he gets a winnable fight, he doesn't get a win. You can't. I don't know. I don't think you can overturn this, but
Yeah.
I kind of feel for the guy.
I do feel for the guy, and regardless of whether I got the pick right or wrong in the fight, I definitely saw the dynamic wrong, because you already mentioned it. I thought Klein would have an easier time navigating the reach disadvantage against Herbert, but he really struggled with it. And if Herbert can do that to somebody who is as fast and explosive and has one-shot power like Klein does, that gives me hope for him being able to do that against other decent lightweights. So good.
Yeah, I agree. The one thing I'll say about the groin strike and the situation, compare this to what happened in Bellator with Shibli and Mokaev. Talk about two extremes. One guy doesn't hit the guy in the groin, gets a point taken for it. Shibli does hit Mokaev. Now, I agree that he did hit him in the body first, and that probably was what stopped the fight. But on his reload, he kicks him in the nuts, but gets a win after it was stopped for a groin strike. Which just goes back to my theme of we need to figure what the fuck we're doing when it comes to scoring and rules in MMA. Anyways, first fight of the night, Joanna Miller versus Veronica Hardy, formerly Veronica Macedo, now married to Dan Hardy. I was absolutely floored by the performance by Hardy. I thought she looked fantastic. She was fast. She was moving really well. A lot of variety in striking. Wasn't kind of attacking with the same thing. Counter-attacking, Miller was throwing a lot of looping shots. And Miller also, I thought she was she's a good jiu-jitsu, practitioner. I thought she was a better wrestler than she was. She's actually really weak. She's pretty weak on with her wrestling takedowns.
She got that female Nate Diaz vibe going on. Just kind of like really loose posture, wants to be a rubbery grappler, not a good defensive or offensive wrestler. So you can't be a grappling specialist in the 2020s at the UFC level if you have to count on your opponent to give you a grappling match. Like Macedo, I was more wrong about this fight than any other fight on this card, and that's saying a lot. But I just didn't have in my on my bingo card, Veronica Macedo Veronica Hardy, comes back from multiple years off and looks better than she ever has in her career. Because I picked Miller with confidence because I was like, okay, Macedo isn't going to be better than what she was before. And what she was before had really bad strategic blunders on the ground.
Yeah, I thought we were going to have Miller on top of her for a long period of time until I did the same thing. Hardy makes a mistake and gets submitted.
Yeah, we're talking about somebody who literally just went for Eminari rolls and slid for knee bars against not very good fighters. And I was like, if that's what she has for Miller, Miller's going to kill her. And yeah, and Boz mentioned physically she looked better than she ever has before. So assuming her tests come back clean, we have a new person of interest at 125. If her tests don't come back clean, and this was just her like Stephan Bonner farewell moment, I just wanted some nice pictures on the scale, before I retired. You remember before the Anderson Silva fight, he looked like unbelievably jacked, But anyway, yeah, congratulations, Mrs. Hardy. Great performance.
Yeah. So you guys have it. We've covered all 15 fights. Let's wrap this up with some of the fun stuff. The Bulls of the Bears, the cut list. How about the awards? Do we have the awards? I'm assuming we do.
We do have the awards.
We already have next fights announced and everything.
Yeah. All right. We have a fight of the night and two performances of the night. I imagine that most people in the chat already know what the awards are. So why don't you put in the chat what you think they should be?
All right. And we'll throw it and we'll post them as they come in, or at least read them as they come in. The fight of the night's absolutely no-brainer. Justin Gaethje versus Rafael Fiziev. There's no way they picked another fight. I would bet.
Yeah, it might not win fight of the year, but it's in the clubhouse.
That was an incredible fight. I wonder how much money Justin Gaethje has made just on performance bonuses.
It'll be in Jay Petrie's Fight Facts column on Monday morning, I'm sure, and I'm sure it's pushing $1 million. Because they're wrong. He isn't the UFC's all-time leader in post-fight bonuses. I know Bisping or DC said that on the broadcast. That's not true, but he's in the top 3.
He's got to be I would say by percentage, he has to be.
Percentage of his fights that have, All of his
Is
fights,
he-
except for the Bronx fight and the Khabib fight where he lost quickly, have earned him some kind of bonus.
Yeah, that's incredible. As far as performances, I'm gonna go Hadley. You know, one punch knockout. And Ashmos. I mean, another walk off. Those are the ones I'd go with. So yeah, I go the same as I don't know if I'm assuming that's what Butterfield is. I don't know if he's announcing those or just giving.
No,
his,
he's saying who he would pick.
Yeah, I would go with the ones that with Mr. Butterfield picked.
Yeah. Lots of people like in Ashmos here. Hopefully they give the man some shekels. But your actual winners, your fight of the night, obviously the no-brainer of no-brainers, Justin Gaethje versus Rafael Fiziev. Your performances of the night, Jake Hadley and Gunnar Nelson.
Oh, really? Gunnar, like, this is the easiest pick, Gunnar Nelson. Like, this guy one punched the guy a foot taller than him into oblivion.
Yeah. He one punched him, but then he punched him 15 more times anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I guess. You know, I think some of it has to do with the crowd rocking when Gunnar Nelson, you get that like feels like he did something spectacular. He submitted a guy that sucks on the ground.
Yep.
It is. I mean, I guess the argument you could make is that he did it quicker than RDA did. I guess so you could say that's a good performance. All right. Let's move on. Let's do the Bulls and the Bears. The Bulls and the Bears are a stock market ref. Well, you know what?
Cutlist?
Actually, you want to do the cut list?
Might as well get it out of the way.
Yeah, Bass was calling for the cut list earlier. So the way the cut list works, if both me and Ben have the same person on our list, we give the UFC permission to cut them to make room for somebody else. If one of us does not have that name, then the person is saved. I only have 2 on my list, Ben. I'm in a good mood.
I only have 1.
Really?
I'm either in a even no, never mind. I have 2. I've got 2.
Okay. All right. I'll let you throw out your first name.
My first name is Malcolm Gordon. I am sorry to say it, but he looks good in his fights, but he keeps losing. And this time he lost and blew weight badly to Hadley. So yeah, Malcolm Gordon, he's lost 2 in a row. He's lost 4 of 6 in the UFC. He has lost spectacularly when he's lost. Yeah, Malcolm Gordon goes.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? What am I talking about? I got a bunch of guys. This is guys. I have another set of notes. I didn't pay attention to. Actually, what the hell am I talking about? I have 4 people on my list. So I'm sorry. I can't even count them here.
Okay.
Okay. Give me the other name.
My other name is Omar Morales. He's lost 3 in a row. He's lost 4 of his last 5. Just, he's fun, but in that division, just being fun isn't enough. Heavyweights can stick around just being fun. But lightweight, you got to win.
Yeah. Omar Morales was also on my list. The other guy I was cutting, even though I do think he should move up to 155, but you are saving him. That's Makman Americani. I mean, the guy's lost I think 5 out of 6 or something like that. 4 to 5, something.
5 to 6.
5 out of 6, yeah. So it's time to cut him. And so you saved him though. So Makwan, Mr. Finland will be back one more time because of the grace saved by Ben, and also the guy that Ben is saving. How about the O2 Arena's electrician? I'm cutting that dude.
And Bisping made a comment about that guy losing his job on the broadcast. I was like, damn, dude.
Yeah, I'm cutting, dude. I'm sorry. Big moment like that. ESPN pay-per-view. The lights go out in the arena. That guy, I don't know who it is, but that guy's getting cut. I don't know, the building manager or something. I don't know. Cut somebody. I'm just joking. I don't want to see I don't see the worker man lose a job because somebody leaned back on the light switch.
Yeah.
Would it be funny? Imagine if at the O2 Arena, I think the entire building is there's one light switch that just knocks everything off.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the Bulls and the Bears. The Bulls and the Bears are a stock market reference when things are going good. It's a bull stock, or when things are going bad, it's a bear stock or bear market. We do a 3, 2, 1. Do you want to go positive or negative, Ben?
I want to go positive.
Okay, we'll go positive. Ben, I'll let you go first.
Okay. Let's go ahead. My third is going to be Chris Duncan. Two guys named Chris Duncan came into this card. By hook or by crook, both of them won. I'm sure in neither case it was exactly how they drew it up on the whiteboard. Christian Leroy Duncan, I'm sure, wanted a first round TKO, but probably not by knee injury. Chris Duncan probably wanted something a little more conclusive than a split decision against a guy that we both just called to lose his job. But nonetheless, Chris Duncan had a great night. I will go ahead and number 2, Leon Edwards. Fair or not, he was not legitimized until tonight. If he loses to Usman, he's not getting another rematch. It's going to be forever before he gets another title shot, and it changes the entire way he would be remembered as a fighter. Now he has passed the Matt Hughes test, which the Matt Hughes test, any validity it has to be doubled in Matt Hughes' division, where you're not really champ until you've defended your title. He's done it. And the way we're talking, he's probably going to be favored over whoever he fights next. So we're in for a Leon Edwards era, whether it's long or short. Number 1, Dan Hardy. What a great week for the Hardy family. A Hardy got a win in the Octagon in 2023. Dan Hardy got a new job as PFL's basically fighter development guy for their Challenger Series Europe. So
what does that mean?
I think he's the Rich Franklin to one championship of PFL in Europe. But it means he's pulling checks, and anything that rewards former fighters for just leaving competition and staying out of competition, anything that gives them a way to keep making a paycheck without just coming back and getting knocked out, I'm all for it. And Dan Hardy's got a good mind for the sport. I never loved him on the desk on Fight Night, but I love him in the studio on Fight Night. He's a great X's and O's on the board guy, good at explaining it. So good for him.
Ben likes him so much. He constantly asking Dan to come on to be the Hardy and Duffy show. He keeps asking a replacement.
I'm asking Bo Nichols' dad to come join us.
I'm asking Bo Nichols' dad.
Pastor Nichols, come on. Pastor Nichols, come on. Join us.
I love that we just made him a pastor.
Yeah, he's like, what are you talking about? I'm an accountant. Like,
all right. I'm gonna go with kind of similar to you went with Duncan with names. I'm gonna go with women who recently changed their last name. Joanne Wood and Veronica. So Joanne Calderwood has recently changed to Joanne Wood. A couple fights now, though. And Veronica Macedo, now Veronica Hardy. Those young ladies going the old-fashioned way, taking the man's last name. 2-0 on the night, and both me. I had a pretty good night with my picks, but not in those two matches. I picked them both wrong. So gotta go with the old-fashioned woman. My number 2.
Come on, Keith. What kind of conservative are you, man? Like,
yeah, I know.
Like the traditional family won tonight.
Yeah, that's right. America won. My number 2, Justin Gaethje. You know what? He was an underdog against a stylistic fight that a lot of people thought was a bad stylistic matchup. Been out for a long time, continues to impress. Puts his name. Justin Gaethje made a statement where you have the Conor rule. When Conor gets one rule, he can jump the line. Gaethje doesn't have that, but he has that 2-win rule because of his style, because he's so fun. Everyone loves him. So Justin Gaethje's stock went up, and I think Juice X also mentioned this. English MMA, just English, not going the entire UK because Casey O'Neill lost and a couple other people, but. English MMA, I think they went 6-1. I think Sam Patterson was the only one who lost on the night. So if you're an English-based fighter, if I counted correctly, they went 6-1 on the evening. The title stays in the UK, as you mentioned.
They went 7-1-1. There was the draw. Jai Herbert is British, so yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. 7. There was probably another fight I'm missing, so I might have been just going. I wasn't counting the UK people. I wasn't counting But I mean, if you go, UK in general. Because I know Duncan won and Joanne Wood won. Casey O'Neill, so they would have been 9-2 in the evening, 9-2-1.
Yeah, so something like that.
Yeah. So overall, I think their stock went up. Let's go negative. Oh, actually, I'm going to give you one more, as you already mentioned it, I'll mention again. Richard Shaw is the ultimate bull, beating cancer, just finished chemo. Well, they said 2 weeks ago, being in his son's corner. So he won the biggest battle tonight. So great job, Richard Shaw. You're on the Bulls list. Bears. These are the people who did not have the night that they wanted. I will go with. I'm gonna go with Juliana Miller. She, tough champion. You kind of ride that. Not that tough champion doesn't hold what it used to hold, but still a nice little title you get to have. You go from that to losing a terrible loss to Veronica Hardy. I think her stock absolutely plummeted. My number 2, Casey O'Neill. I mean, we're talking about possible, title picture, or going around and running the division, takes a real tough loss, her first loss to Jennifer Maia. Her stock went down. And number 1, I mean, it's a no-brainer. It's got to be Kamaru Usman. I mean, he's lost a trilogy fight. He's lost 2 fights in a row for a guy at one time looked unbeatable. He's showing signs of decline. He's way in the back of the line now. He's talking about he's going to see Edwards again. He's seen Edwards again years from now because he's going way, he's not going to the back of the line, but he's sliding 6 or 7 spots back. So not good for former champion. Who do you have on yours list?
Honestly, you just stole like literally all the people I was going to take. I was going to lead off with the 2 undefeated women who both lost uncontroversially. And then Usman. Yeah, I mean, next time out, he's going to be fighting a non-title fight for the first time in over 4 years. Like, he's been in the picture for a long ass time. I won't add 3 more.
He beat Tyron Woodley. He beat Tyron Woodley
almost exactly 4 years ago. It was March of 2019.
Yeah.
All I'll add to it, to your list, is Dusko Todorovic. Like that. I'm not a doctor, and even if I were, wouldn't make me his doctor. But for a fighter in that weight class, one who fancies himself a striker, that looked like the kind of thing that you might not come back perfectly well from. Bad night for him. Like that's a rough look.
Yeah.
And the judges. This was a horrific night for judging. Not a great night for refereeing. If we wanted to, one or the other of us could probably put it on our Bears list every single time out. So we don't, unless it stands out. There were some standout bad scorecards and some rough looks from referees tonight. And that sucks.
Yeah. I went hard on referees last week. So I don't want to sound like a broken record.
Yeah.
But all right, let's get to the dude seriously, just a little fun portion. I have a couple. How many dude seriously do you have?
Oh, dude, seriously? I'm sure I've got some, but I can't really think of any. They're not sexy.
All right, I got 2. I'll start with Michael Bisping mentioning, or maybe it was actually I think it was John Anik mentioning Makwan Amerikani's 800 wrestling matches in Finland, and I'm like, dude, seriously, wrestling in Finland? That'd be like bragging about surfing in Antarctica. Like, give me a break.
So I went in on Italian wrestling on the preview. Now you're going to have like some like cross-country skiing snipers from Finland like coming up your street.
What are some guys surfing in Antarctica right now saying, what the fuck, dude?
Hey,
you know how hard it is to surf with all these freaking polar bears and ice? And my other one, I actually technically while saying dude seriously, a Mokaev tap. I didn't see it, but I believe you guys. So I'm gonna go with the UFC, like a UFC pay-per-view, like 2 weeks after another pay-per-view. You want to charge us $80 2 weeks around? That's $160 in a 2-week period. Like, dude, seriously? Can I ask you this real quick before? Do you have any, or we can move on?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Did this feel a little like for a UFC pay-per-view? And I want to preface that I really like once a year the NCAA wrestling tournament is, so I really focus on that during that year. So it might just be me. It might not be. I didn't do what I normally did. I watched the countdown show. I watched 1 or 2 episodes of Embedded, but I didn't watch the All Embedded. I didn't watch the press conference. I usually watch the live weigh-ins, and I watch the ceremony. I would usually watch everything when it comes to fight week. Once a year, I don't. So maybe it's me, but I didn't feel like this pay-per-view was hyped at all. Like it I mean, obviously the card, was good, but to me, it was a weaker card. The main event wasn't the sexiest because, I mean, it's a trilogy fight between Leon Edwards, not the most popular champion. We had a pay-per-view 2 weeks ago. It's going against March Madness. It's going against NCAA Wrestling. It's going against NFL free agency. It's going against, all this other stuff. And I'm sure there's some big thing going on in soccer somewhere. I don't know. I just really wasn't I wasn't that excited for a card as I normally am for a pay-per-view.
This card was buried. If you're going to put one pay-per-view card 2 weeks after another, and then there's another one 3 weeks after this, like UFC 287 is coming in 3 weeks. Jeez. So that's going to be 3 pay-per-view cards in the space of 7 weeks. $240. The middle card, the second card, unless it has a transcendent star like Conor McGregor on it, if it had like a McGregor, a Rousey, a Lesnar, or something like that, everyone's going to front load for the first card. Nobody's going to buy the second. Like this card got buried. And Dev made a point that it's a card for the UK fans, but even the undercard in the bottom half of the main card, it felt like a Bellator Europe card. Just a bunch of debuting fighters, bunch of fighters that are relatively low ceiling, and it was super long, like 15 fights. Yeah.
If you guys haven't seen Spencer Lee, he's for those who don't follow NCAA wrestling, he was the most dominant wrestler in probably the last decade, other than maybe Gabriel Stevenson. But he was going for his 4th NCAA title. He got pinned in the semifinals, and his mom was in the stands wearing glasses and just takes her glass and just crunkles up in her hand, angry. I felt bad for Spencer Lee. I felt even worse for her mom because, God, like, bad enough her reaction is caught on, people, they're filming the mom, but she's made herself a meme forever. Like, for 20 years from now, people are going to be like, my weekend plans, and then it rains, and her cranking up her, she's going to be a meme forever, poor lady. Guys, I promise this will be the last I talk of the NCAA Wrestling Championship for a while, because I'm about to go watch it right now, find out who won. So thank you guys for not spoiling it for me. Before we do, what was your grade for the card? And throw out to the chat too. What was your grade, overall grade?
B. And without the Gaethje fight, it would have been a C-. Like, a lot of the fights just...
No, good.
I mean, there was one absolutely sensational fight on the card, and then the rest of it, there were fights marred by bad scorecards. There were fights that ended early by freakish injury. There were fights that just weren't great fights. Like, I would be hard pressed to name the second best fight from this card. It's like maybe the main event, and that's a main event that, most of us think one fighter won 4 rounds to 1. I mean, or at least a majority of people, and that's our second best fight. Like, yeah, it was just an okay card.
That's one thing we didn't talk about. I get if a lot of people scored at 4 rounds to 1. If you told me beforehand that one fighter won 4 rounds to 1, I would have thought, oh wow, Usman had a really good night. Obviously that wasn't the case. I'm gonna go C+. I had it much lower than Gaethje and Fiziev did what they did, and I almost feel like with Gaethje, he doesn't get as graded as well as he should because we just get so used to him having these most unbelievable wars. Like, where before I'd be walking into work tomorrow saying like, dude, you see Gaethje in this, and it's just like, that's what he does. Hardest question is it is every single night. Who is your listener of the night?
It's been a busy night. Like, most of our regulars here. We've had a few new people dropping in. I'm actually gonna say, I wouldn't normally give it to Boz, but he was just slaying me towards the end there with the talk of like the hybrid like Veronica Hardy, Norma Dumont, that I will just leave in the chat and not like repeat out loud. Like it just like killed me dead. I'm like trying not to laugh over here. Good job, Buzz.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it to my man. I just posted up there just because he said you guys get the award for making the UFC better.
And
Jeff
Jeff Berman, I liked
sorry.
a lot. I liked a lot of his takes early on about the main event too. Like, strong opinions, well stated.
Yeah, he came at us a couple times too. A couple other people that shot. I mean, all the usuals. Jesse C came on strong.
Yeah.
How about John Butterfield came in late, but he was spitting fire. There was another one, Anna. I'm sorry. What was her last name?
Anna Lou.
Anna Lou. Oh,
yeah.
Anna Lou was strong, and of course all the usuals, Dev and Bass and Ben Cooley and Technical Wealth and all these guys. So there you guys have it. We have recapped UFC 286. We believe we do the most in-depth recap in the world. We thank you for joining us. I thank you to everybody in the chat. Nobody ruined any results other than Juicex ruining the NCAA wrestling match, but thank you guys. Make sure you like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. We'll be back next week. We'll be recapping UFC. I don't know what number it is, but it's
UFC San Antonio.
San Antonio now. Okay, UFC San Antonio. Marlon Chito Vera versus Corey Sandhagen. We'll also be previewing that. So if you've never seen the preview, we do believe that we do the most in-depth preview in the entire world, where we cover every single fight as deep as anybody can. So make sure you check that out. Until then, see you guys next time.